They told you ancient Greece was a place of reason and beauty, of poetry and gods, of temples that touched the sky and minds that touched eternity. But no one told you how lonely it could feel beneath those marbled columns, how quiet the streets were at dawn before the city stirred, how the sound of your own footsteps on worn stone could feel like a betrayal. You arrive in a world where time is marked by the toll of bronze bells and the chants of fishermen heading to sea. The first breath you take tastes of olive oil, clay, and morning fire smoke. You are not anyone here. You have no lineage, no name inscribed on amphorae or family shrines. You are just another figure in a crowded agora, faceless and moving. But there are eyes. There are always eyes. They glance sideways from beneath Himatians, peek through wooden shutters, or flick over shoulders like secrets too bold to name. This is how affection begins in Greece, not with words, but with watching. The woman who sells figs stares too long when you pick the ripest one. The boy refilling the wine jug lingers beside your table as the sun shifts west. The philosopher's daughter, too proud to speak, scribbles a single letter in the dirt with her toe before walking away. The old nursemaid notices everything. She spits twice for protection and mutters that arrows flies too close today. You smile, unsure whether it's hope or warning. Dating is not a word here. There is no clear ritual. There are no dinner reservations or poems scribbled in margins of notebooks. Love, or the longing for it, exists in fragmented customs festivals, glances at the well, small offerings placed discreetly at a rival's door. You learn quickly that marriage is not love, and love is not expected to end in marriage. Most unions are arranged, bound by dowry and honor and the weaving of social threads stronger than affection. But the ache to connect still lives here. It grows in the quiet spaces between shared amphorae of wine, beside the fire at a friend's home, in the hush of an olive grove when no one is watching. Your feet ache from walking the marble steps of the Acropolis. You pass young men debating ethics under the shade of fig trees. One of them nods at you. The gesture is too brief to mean anything, but your heart records it like a song. In ancient Greece, to be noticed is the beginning. A slave girl sees you pause beside the statue of Aphrodite and whispers that if you want someone to look your way again, you must leave her a comb, not gold, just something used, touched. The goddess favors intimacy. That night, you leave your hairpin beneath the altar. In the morning, it is gone. The next time you pass the agora, the same young man hands you a date. He doesn't speak. You don't need him to. Affection here is often silent, but it is not simple. If you are a woman, your movements are watched by fathers, by uncles, by the city itself. You are expected to marry by agreement, to bring status or land. And if you are a man, the pressure is no less: marry wisely, produce sons, and never let desire cloud your honor. Yet desire is everywhere. It drips from the mouths of poets. It burns in the eyes of theater-goers. It dances at the edge of torchlight during the festival of Dionysus, when faces are hidden and hands are less careful. You are told that in Sparta, women choose their husbands. You are told that in Athens, they do not. But in every polis, there are corners where custom softens. A shared flute song, a glance across the wrestling yard, a scroll passed hand to hand, the ink still wet with meaning. You sit on the steps near the stove and watch as a girl draws water from the fountain. She knows you're watching. She spills a drop. You pretend not to see. Later, a folded scrap of cloth appears near your seat. It smells of myrrh and citrus. It is meaningless. It means everything. In the symposia, men speak of politics and war, of the balance between appetite and restraint. But even there, under clouds of smoke and the hum of lyres, they glance toward the doorway, hoping someone will enter who makes the night feel like more than philosophy. Someone does. She does not speak. Her eyes are lined with kohl, her hands wrapped in red thread. You follow her outside, only with your gaze. That is enough. Dating in Greece is not pursuit. It is orbit. You circle each other. You align, if only briefly, under stars that have watched hundreds do the same before you. You walk the hills above the city and find a temple ruin. There is a name carved into the stone half erased by time. You wonder who they loved. You wonder if they were answered. The next day, someone offers you a pomegranate seed. Only one. You place it on your tongue. It tastes like beginnings. A priest sees you and says nothing. The gods know. They always know. They watch not from high Olympus, but from the cracks in pottery, from the smoke rising off the brazier, from the way your shoulders stiffen when a name is spoken. Eros, they say, is not a god to be prayed to lightly. He listens. He waits. He aims when you least expect. You begin to write names in the dirt. Not yours. Not theirs. Just names. Any name. Just to imagine saying it aloud to someone whose voice you want to hear again. You walk the long street toward the sea, hoping to see the fisherman's daughter again. She is not there, but the breeze carries her scent rosemary and brine. You hold it like a memory. That night, the moon is full. Couples gather at the edge of the city to offer fruit and laughter to the gods. You are invited to join. You don't know by whom. A hand you do not recognize presses yours. The fingers are rough, honest. You do not ask their name. Not yet. That would make it real. That would make it breakable. Instead, you sit in the reeds, your toes brushing the water, your heart thudding with the rhythm of something older than language. Tomorrow may bring war, or a proposal, or silence. But tonight, you are here. You are wanted. You are seen. And that is enough. Somewhere behind you, the city breathes. Its stone walls carry stories older than your bones. Its streets remember the footsteps of every lover who ever risked a glance. You are one of them now, a shadow in the archive, a whisper in the dark, a line in an unwritten poem. You close your eyes. The night tastes of figs and wine and something unspoken. You do not need to speak. You only need to stay a little longer in this ancient moment, before the gods notice you too much. You wake before the sun crests the hills, the pale blue of the Aegean sky still kissed with stars, and for a moment, you are not anyone. Not a daughter, not a son, not a future bride or unwilling heir. You are just breath and skin and warmth wrapped in the stillness of dawn. The world around you sleeps beneath linen and clay, but already the birds begin to stir in fig trees and cypress groves, their songs slipping like secrets through the narrow alleyways of stone. You rise slowly, not from duty, but from habit born into your bones. There is a basin of water near the door, still cool from the night air. You wash your hands, your face, your throat, whispering a name you are not supposed to say aloud, someone else's name. Someone who once passed you a sprig of time without words. Someone who held your gaze 2 heartbeats too long beside the merchant's stall. You were not raised for romance. No one is truly, not here. Not in a world where marriages are contracts and daughters are measured by dowry and silence. But your body does not know that. It only knows that when your hands brushed near the loom, something inside you remembered softness. When your eyes met beneath the olive canopy, your pulse betrayed you. You step into the street, sandals scuffing dust from yesterday's footsteps. Somewhere, a widow is sweeping her threshold. Her broom is frayed as her voice. A baker calls out in a low, rhythmic chant, announcing the first loaves pulled from blackened ovens. The city wakes in layers, and so do you. You walk toward the temple, not out of faith, but out of routine. The priestesses always light incense just before sunrise, the scent of crushed myrrh and rosewood curling into the sky like an invisible ladder to the gods. You do not look directly at the statues. It is considered prideful. Instead, you kneel at the 3rd pillar from the left, where the stone is worn from other knees, other prayers, other hesitations. You place a single olive pit beside the base, an offering so small it might be overlooked. But the goddess of love does not need grand gestures. She listens best to what is nearly hidden. You whisper a question. It has no words, only breath and longing. You rise and leave before the sun breaks over the roof. At the market, colors bloom like wildflowers. Terracotta jugs, wine-dark grapes, bolts of wool dyed in sea madder and saffron. The boy who sells citrus watches you again. He always does. His fingers are stained yellow from peeling rind after rind, but his smile is clean, bright, sharp as flint. He offers you a slice. You take it without touching his hand. Everyone is watching. Everyone pretends not to. Nearby, a girl laughs too loudly, then covers her mouth as if she has broken a rule. Her mother scolds her, a goat bleats, a merchant haggles, somewhere a lyre begins to play. You are supposed to shop for oil, for lentils, for vinegar-soaked onions. You buy a strand of beads instead. The seller tells you they are blessed, but you know they are not. Still, you take them, blue like sea glass, cool in your palm. Later, you walk the edge of the city, where the walls begin to crumble into hillside and vines reclaim the spaces no one bothers to mend. It is quiet here, safe. Sometimes, you see others. A woman writing poetry into the dirt with a stick. Two boys wrestling in dust, their laughter low and private. A man lying beneath an almond tree, staring at the sky as if waiting for it to speak. Today, it is empty. You sit on a flat stone and wrap the beads around your wrist. The sea is not visible from here, but you can smell its salt, driftwood, the memory of storms. You remember a story the midwife told about a man who fell in love with a siren and drowned just to hear her voice again. You did not understand then. You do now. A pebble skips near your feet. You look up. It is him, the boy from the citrus stall. He says nothing, just nods toward the fig grove. You rise and follow. The trees form a canopy thick enough to hush the world. Bees buzz in lazy spirals. A dove watches from a low branch. You say nothing, so does he. But your hands brush again. This time, neither of you pulls away. He hands you a fig. You split it and share. Sweet. Overripe. Sticky. It lingers on your fingers. He touches your wrist, where the beads rest. For protection? He asks. You shake your head. For memory. He does not laugh. He nods. You sit on the grass, knees bent, hands closed but not quite touching. You speak of things that mean nothing: the heat, the harvest, the way the sky looked last night. But beneath every word is a thread pulled tight with possibility. You are not lovers, not yet. But you are circling the idea like dancers before a flame. The sun shifts. Time leans forward. He stands. So do you. Neither of you says goodbye. That would make it real. That would make it breakable. You return home before dusk. Your mother notices your silence. She does not ask. But that night, she braids your hair with a gentleness that says everything. She hums a hymn to Hera, goddess of marriage, but her eyes are distant. She once had a fig grove. She once had a boy who smiled with clean teeth and gave her beads. You sleep with your hand curled around your wrist. You dream of stone paths and almond blossoms. In the morning, your sister is drawing hearts into the dust with her toe. She scuffs them away when you approach. The house is full of steam and salt and dried mint. Aunts talk of dowries. Uncles talk of land. You slip away. Back to the market. The boy is not there. You do not ask where he is. You do not speak his name. You buy 2 oranges and walk to the grove alone. He is there, waiting. He says he thought of you last night. You pretend not to hear. He offers a shell from the shore, white, smooth, shaped like a crescent moon. You hold it like a relic. This is what dating looks like here. Not declarations, not dances, not letters. It is the slow accumulation of tokens. A seed, a thread, a slice of fruit, a stolen hour. The gods are watching, but for once, they do not interfere. Even Eros, mischievous and cruel, seems content to let this unfold in silence. When the festivals come, the city blooms. There are masks and flutes and wine poured until the earth itself smells drunk. You wear a wreath of myrtle. He wears nothing special. You do not speak all night, but you pass each other like ships tracing the same shore. At midnight, beneath the firelight, he kisses you. It is quick, gentle, like a prayer. Like a promise. You do not speak of it the next day. That would make it real. That would make it breakable. But you wear your beads on the outside of your sleeve, and he starts bringing figs wrapped in fresh leaves. You are not lovers, not yet. But the world is tilting towards something, and you do not look away. The days stretch longer now, not because the sun rises earlier, but because time bends when you wait for someone. Every moment holds the shape of a question. Will they come today? Will the world shift slightly? Will the same hands pass you another olive, another reason to stay still a little longer? In ancient Greece, affection is a pattern woven slowly, not spoken but acted, traced like fingers over marble too delicate to press. You begin to understand that nothing here is hurried. Not the gods, not the harvest, not the quiet ache of two people circling each other under the weight of custom. You pass each other again at the well. He draws water for the old woman with a crooked back. You say nothing, he says nothing. But when he walks away, you find a small pebble beside your bucket white, flat, worn smooth by the sea. You slip it into your robe without thinking. In the square, elders argue about taxes and grain. Children chase a cart, pulled by a groaning mule. The air tastes like clay dust and time. You barely hear it. Your ears ring with silence, with the imagined sound of his voice in your mind. That evening, your mother weaves by lamplight. Her fingers never slow. She speaks of dowries and suitable matches, of which families need alliances and which cousins have moved back from the islands. You nod, you stir the stew. You let the words pass through you like river water, because your mind is still in the fig grove, still in the shade, still waiting. At night, you dream again not of temples or battles, not of gods or scrolls, but of hands brushing on accident, of eyes meeting in a crowd and not looking away. In the dream, there is a festival. He pulls you into a dance. You do not stumble. You are not afraid. The dream ends before the music does. You wake with your heart beating in your throat. You rise early, wrap a scarf around your shoulders, and walk toward the pottery stalls. You tell yourself it is to look for a new oil jar, but you are not convincing. He is there. He always is, now. Today, he gives you a piece of bread folded in cloth, still warm. You eat it slowly, letting the salt cling to your tongue. He leans against a broken column, watching the sky. Do you ever wonder if the gods laugh at us? He asks. You look at him. Maybe, you say, but not unkindly. He nods. A pause. The air between you is heavy with something neither of you name. Not love, not yet, but longing shaped like it. That afternoon, a storm rolls across the horizon, lazy and distant. You stay inside, listening to the rain-hit clay tiles. You think of him under the same sky. You press the pebble he gave you into your palm. It leaves a mark. Later, a neighbor speaks of a girl who married for love and was cursed with poverty. Your aunt clicks her tongue. Desire is sweet, she says, but bitter when it dries. You say nothing. That night, you walk to the altar of Aphrodite and leave half a fig. Just enough. In return, you find a sprig of rosemary on your doorstep at dawn. No note, no explanation. But you know. The seasons shift, the fig trees bear less fruit, the sea grows rough, the city changes slowly, like a statue aging, but still, you meet him. In hidden places, on rooftops, between temple shadows, you speak in pieces, in memories, in things you would never say aloud. He once told you his greatest fear was to be forgotten. You told him yours was to remember too much. You laugh now, but softly. The kind of laughter that hides its teeth. One day he gives you a shell carved with two birds. Sparta, he says. They say lovers there fight together. You ask if he'd fight beside you. He doesn't answer. He just watches the wind move your scarf. When winter comes, the city quiets. The air bites. Fires burn longer. Lovers meet less often. You wait. He comes late. Once. You don't ask why. But when he takes your hand, he holds it tighter. That night, he tells you his family wants him to leave to travel to Delos, to work, to marry someone useful. You nod, your throat tightens. Will you go? You whisper. I don't know, he says. Would you wait? You look at him. You don't answer. The next day, he is gone. No message, no coin, just absence. You walk the agora and see him in every face. You turn corners, expecting him. You visit the fig grove, the well, the pottery stall. Nothing. The days press inward. You stop speaking. Even your mother notices. She brings you honey cakes. You leave them untouched. That night, you dream of the birds on the shell. One is flying. The other stays. You wake with tears in your ears. The city does not stop. It never does. You go through the motions grinding, washing, weaving, but each act feels heavy, hollow. Your sister asks if you're ill. You say you're tired. She nods. She believes you. Weeks pass. Then months. Then, one afternoon, you return from the olive press and find a scrap of cloth tied to your door. Inside is a pebble. White, flat, worn smooth. Beneath it, one word written in poor ink. Soon. You stare at it until the sun sets. You don't cry. You don't smile. You breathe. For the first time in weeks, you breathe fully. Later, at the festival of Antisteria, the city bursts into song. Wine flows like water. Masks are worn. Secrets are shared. Someone places a wreath of ivy on your head. You let it stay. In the crowd, a voice calls your name. You turn. You see him, older, thinner, eyes like storms. He walks towards you, not with confidence, but with certainty. You meet him halfway. He does not speak. He doesn't need to. You take his hand. He squeezes once. You stay like that while the city dances around you. Dating in ancient Greece is not a straight line. It is a winding path through ritual and silence, through distance and yearning, through gifts of stone and fruit and time. It asks for patience, for listening, for enduring, and if you are lucky, for remembering. When the music ends, you walk beside him, not into a future, but into a present long waited for. The fig trees do not bloom yet, but they will. You know they will. And for now, that is enough. You wake with your hands still wrapped around the empty shell he gave you, your fingers sore from holding too tightly to something that never promised to stay. The night has faded without dreams, only the dull ache of remembering. The window is open, letting in the distant sound of the rooster's call and the sea licking the edges of the shore like a tired animal. You sit up slowly. The mat beneath you is damp from your sweat. The air smells of ash, of wet clay, of the faint sweetness of pomegranate from the tree beyond the garden wall. You rub your eyes, but the fatigue does not leave. It is let into your bones. The kind of tired that comes not from labor, but from hoping. You step outside, feet bare against the cold stone. The sky is still pale, the stars not fully gone, and for a moment, you feel like you are standing between two worlds, the one where you wait and the one where no one is coming. You walk the alley slowly, passing the butcher's closed door, the fig vendor's shuttered stall, the abandoned basin where two cats fight quietly for warmth. A child's sandal lies forgotten beside a bench. You wonder if anyone ever comes back for these small things, or if they simply become part of the street. At the well, the first woman of the day is already drawing water. She does not speak, neither do you. Words feel heavy this morning, like coins sewn into your hem. You return home before your absence is noticed. Your mother is already kneading dough, her elbows dusted white. She glances up, does not ask. You are grateful. There are days when even kindness is unbearable. Later, as the city stretches into sunlight, you walk past the Temple of Artemis, its columns towering and stern. Girls pass beneath them with garlands in their hair, laughing behind cupped hands. They are too young to know yet that garlands wilt, that laughter can turn into silence. A priestess lights incense and sings softly in a tongue older than the marble she walks on. You do not understand the words, but you know what they mean. You leave a single grape at the steps and continue on. That afternoon, your neighbor's daughter is betrothed. She is 14. The house fills with women who smell of rosewater and vinegar. They sing songs that speak of duty, of fertility, of how to fold linen so that it smells like new beginnings. You help plait the girl's hair. She does not smile. You do not expect her to. When the sun lowers and shadows begin to gather in the cracks of the walls, you find yourself standing in front of the same old grove, though you do not remember walking there. The branches are bare now, winter having stripped them of softness. The earth is cold beneath your feet. You close your eyes and remember the way his fingers brushed your wrist, the way his voice cracked when he said your name. You open your eyes and the wind shifts. You are alone. Of course you are. That night, you lie beside your sister. She has begun to speak of marriage, of the boy from the potter's family who smiled too long during the last festival. She asks you what it feels like to be chosen. You think of a fig split in half. You say it's like rain after weeks of heat. She sighs, not understanding, but liking the sound of it. In the morning, your uncle announces that a suitor will visit. He is older, he is wealthy. He has a scar on his chin and fingers that twitch when he speaks. He brings your mother a bolt of dyed wool. He brings you silence. You sit across from him while he lists his holdings, his animals, his ability to provide sons. You nod at the right moments. You keep your hands folded. When he leaves, your aunt says he is generous. You feel like you are being wrapped in linen before you have died. That evening, you walk to the sea. You sit on the rocks where children once chased crabs, where lovers now carve names. You press your palm into the stone and wish it would remember you. The stars appear one by one, indifferent. You whisper a name. Not yours, not his, just a name. A possibility, a wish. Behind you, the city lights flicker like tired eyes. Someone sings in the distance. The melody is old. You hum along barely. When you return, your mother is waiting. She holds out the wool and asks you to touch it. You do. It is soft. But your fingers burn. The next days are filled with preparation. Whether for the suitor or the season, no one says. You scrub floors, fold cloths, press olives until your nails ache. You do not ask. You do not resist. Resistance takes energy, and you are saving what little you have. At night, you count the beads he gave you. You place them on the sill and let the wind speak through them. One night, they fall. One rolls beneath your bed. You do not retrieve it. Something inside you knows that it will stay there forever. On the seventh morning, you are sent to fetch bread. The baker's boy, the one with ash on his cheek, hands you a loaf wrapped in cloth and whispers, "Someone waits." You turn to look, but no one stands behind you. He does not meet your eyes again. You walk the length of the agora twice. You visit the grove. You pass the temple. Nothing. You return home with cold bread and questions. That night, you dream of him again. He walks through a garden you do not recognize. He does not speak. You follow, barefoot, over pebbles and pine needles. When he stops, he turns and mouths something. You wake before you understand. The blanket is twisted around your legs. Your face is wet. You rise and wash in silence. There is no festival this week, no excuse to wander, no offerings to deliver. Still, you walk. Through lays that smell of garlic and coal, through streets lined with cracked statues, through courtyards littered with feathers and forgotten laughter. At the fountain near the edge of the city, a woman calls your name. You do not know her. She holds out a folded cloth. Inside, a dried fig, perfectly split. She smiles and walks away. You eat it without thinking. It tastes like yesterday, like hope carved into something too small to carry. When you return, your uncle announces the suitor will visit again. He brings wine this time. He laughs too loudly. He touches your shoulder without asking. You excuse yourself to fetch more oil. In the storeroom, you cry quietly, not from fear, from exhaustion. Later, your mother finds you. She wipes your face and says nothing. Her eyes say everything. That night, you write his name in the dust beneath your bed. The next morning, it is gone, blown away, or erased. You do not know, but the pebble that rolled there days ago has moved. It sits beside your sandals, clean, waiting. You pick it up and hold it tight. You do not explain when your sister asks why you are smiling. The mornings begin to feel longer, not because the sun rises any slower, but because your thoughts move differently now, dragging behind your feet like sand caught in the folds of your chiton. You do not rush anymore. There is no one waiting. And yet you move carefully, quietly, as though each step must not disturb the invisible thread that still links you to something you do not fully understand. The pebble stays in your pocket now, warm from your skin. You press your thumb to it while others speak, while your sister hums by the loom, while the streets buzz with plans that do not involve you. You help your mother grind barley. The stone wheel makes the same sound it always has. But now, it reminds you of the sea. Not its roar, but the hush beneath it. The part no one hears unless they're drowning. She speaks about your future with the suitor, about his visit to your uncle's land, about the ceremony that might come if things go well. You nod at the right moments. You are getting better at that. Better at smiling when spoken to. Better at pretending you do not miss someone who never truly belonged to you. You wonder if he thinks of you when the wind shifts, if he still walks by fig trees out of habit, if he still carries pebbles in his palm and imagines your voice. You wonder until the wondering becomes a ritual, something you do in place of prayer. The city prepares for another feast, not one of love or wine, but of remembrance, for the dead, for the ones who walked and worked and wept and are now dust in urns behind temple walls. The women bake honey cakes and leave them at shrines. Children tie ribbons around olive trunks. You wake early and walk alone through the alleys where the cobblestones remember footsteps no one else does. You pass the potter's stall. The door is open. His son, the one with ink stains on his fingers, watches you but does not wave. You nod. He nods. That is all. You reach the grove again, though your body had not intended it. Something in you returns there like breath returns after fear. The trees are bare but still standing. You place your palm on one. Its bark is rough, cold. It does not remember you, but you remember everything. You remember the fig he offered, split in two, the silence between your knees as you sat side by side, the moment your hands touched, and neither of you moved away. You take the pebble from your pocket and press it into the soil at the base of the tree, not as an offering, as a memory. You walk home with empty hands. The streets are louder now. People move quickly, preparing for the ritual to come. They clean doorways, hang branches, burn old oil. It is said that the spirits rise at night to look for the homes they once lived in. Your mother rubs the threshold with garlic. She tells you not to look behind you after sunset. Not until morning. You nod. That night, your sister sleeps soundly. You do not. You lie awake and think of the sea, not as a place, but as a promise. The next day, the market overflows. The price of salt rises. Two women argue over lentils. A child loses a sandal and wails as though it were a limb. You stand still among it all. You notice a merchant carving something into a shard of clay, the way his brow furrows, the way he mouths the words as he writes. You do not know the name. You wonder whose. You wonder if anyone carves your name anywhere. You pass the fountain. A flower floats in the basin. You sit beside it. You do not touch it. Someone else placed it there. Maybe for love. Maybe for grief. Maybe both. The lines blur here. That evening, your uncle says the suitor has asked for a formal meeting. Your mother's eyes are bright, but tired. She does not speak of love. No one does. That word does not live in daylight. It lives in the space between shadows, in shared fruit, in hands brushing at the edge of a feast. You excuse yourself and walk to the temple. It is nearly empty. The priestess sweeps ash from the floor. You kneel and close your eyes. You do not pray. You listen to the silence, to the beating of your own blood. You feel nothing from the gods. But sometimes, nothing is the answer. You return home and help prepare the meal. The suitor arrives with wine and a promise of land. He sits with your uncle, speaks of weather and crops and the merits of thick stone walls. You pour wine. He does not thank you. He says he will return tomorrow. That is all. Your mother braids your hair that night. She hums something from her youth, but her hands tremble near your temples. You do not stop her. In the morning, the city is soft. A wind rises from the south, carrying sand and scent. You walk slowly, tracing the same path you always do. The boy at the citrus stall is gone. The old woman who once sat outside the weaving shop no longer stirs. A cat sleeps in her place. You pause by the wall where lovers once carved initials. You run your hand over the stone. The marks have faded. You return to the grove. The pebble you left is gone. In its place, a small shell. You pick it up. You look around. No one. Of course. But your heart stirs anyway. That night, your mother lights oil at the window. Your sister offers dried figs to the hearth. You sit quietly, holding the shell. It is warm. You dream of a boat drifting without sails, of someone calling your name from far off, of fingers that almost touch. When you wake, there is fog. The city is muffled. Your aunt says it is a sign. Your uncle says it is only weather. You walk to the sea. You sit until your legs are numb. A fisherman walks past and says nothing. You do not speak either. When the sun breaks through, you walk back. In the street, someone presses a note into your palm and disappears. You open it. One word. Now. That evening, you pretend to sleep. You wait. You listen. The house quiets. You slip outside. The wind is colder than before. Your feet remember the way. He stands in the grove. Older, thinner, eyes the color of sky after rain. He does not speak. He just holds out his hand. You take it. He leads you to the edge of the city. There is no ceremony, no witness. Just the sound of your breath and the weight of his presence. You sit beside him on a fallen column. He shows you a pouch filled with stones, each one smooth, each one named. You hold the shell in your palm. You give it to him. He smiles. For the first time, he says your name. You close your eyes. You lean your head on his shoulder. You do not ask questions. You do not need to. The gods are silent. But the trees remember. The morning after you saw him again feels quieter than the ones before. Not because the city has changed, but because something inside you has. The dust still clings to the edges of the courtyard. The hens still scratch at the earth near the well. The same sun still bleeds slowly across terracotta rooftops. And yet every sound feels muffled now, like cloth over your ears, like a hush placed gently on the world. You rise without speaking. Your mother hands you bread without question. You eat it slowly, chewing each piece until it disappears not just from your mouth, but from memory. Your hands shake as you rinse the bowl. You tell yourself it's the cold. You walk outside and take the long path to the outskirts of the city, the one that winds past the olive press and the old vineyard where the vines curl dry and brittle against the trellis. No one walks with you. No one calls your name. You are not expected today. There is a strange peace in that. You reach the grove and sit on the same stone where you used to wait. The tree above you has begun to bud again. Tiny green leaves push from its fingers. You exhale and close your eyes. Last night, his hand trembled when it touched yours. Not from fear, from restraint, from all the words neither of you could speak. He said he'd come again. You didn't ask when. You didn't want to pin it down. Some things live best in the space between certainty and imagination. The rest of the day slips past like oil on marble. You help your mother wash linens, your sister stitch a hem. You cut figs, sweep ash, nod when spoken to. Inside, you replay his voice again and again, trying to memorize the rhythm, the pauses, the breath he took before saying your name. That night, you dream of a shoreline. He is there, farther out in the water than he should be, standing where the waves curl like hands around his ankles. You call to him, but the wind carries your voice backward. He hears nothing. You wake before dawn, heart aching with words you never had the chance to say. Days pass. He does not come. You do not go to the grove. Not because you don't want to, but because you are afraid that waiting will undo the stillness you've worked so hard to keep intact. The suitor returns. His voice is louder now, his confidence sharper. He sits in the courtyard and praises the bread. He jokes about how obedient his wife will need to be. You smile and offer him more olives. Your mother beams. That night, you walk to the fountain and sit beside the old wall. The stone is cold. Someone has carved a new name since you last looked. You don't recognize it, but the curve of the letters is familiar. You press your palm to the carving. The stone does not respond. The next day is market day. You walk the stalls without purpose, passing baskets of bitter greens, stacked amphorae, caged hens, painted bowls. A boy offers you a sprig of mint. You take it. You do not smile. You leave it on the steps of the temple of Aphrodite. Inside, the priestess hums a lullaby to herself as she lights the incense. You kneel and stay longer than you should. The scent of resin and burnt honey fills your throat. You say nothing, but your silence is not empty. The gods do not answer. That is their way. On the fifth morning, you find a stone on your windowsill. Small, smooth, familiar. You lift it and turn it in your fingers. There is a single mark scratched into its surface. Not a letter. A line, like a path, like direction. You look toward the grove. That evening, you return. He is there. He says nothing. Neither do you. You sit beside him, knees close, eyes watching the sky shift from orange to indigo. He asks if you are afraid. You say yes. He asks if you want to leave. You say no. He touches your hand. You hold your breath. He tells you he will not ask you to choose. He tells you he will wait. The next day, you do not see him, nor the day after. But the stone stays in your hand. You keep it with you while you fetch water, while you help your sister wash her hair, while you pretend to sleep as your mother weeps softly by the fire. The suitor brings a bracelet. He places it on your wrist without asking. It is too tight. You wear it anyway. That night, you cannot sleep. You leave the house barefoot, walk to the grove. He is not there. But beneath the tree, a basket. Inside, a single scroll, blank. Beside it, a stylus. You pick them up, you walk home. The next morning, you begin to write. Not poems, not prayers, just names, places, questions, things you are afraid to say aloud. You hide the scroll beneath your mat. Each night, you write more. Each day, your smile returns in small pieces. Your mother notices. She says nothing. Your sister watches you longer now. She begins to hum your melody, the one he once heard on your breath. On the 10th day, you return to the grove and leave a scroll of your own, folded, tied. You walk away before he comes. That night, another stone. This one carved with a symbol. Two figures facing each other, no faces. Just shape. You do not know what it means, but it means something. The next day, your uncle announces that your betrothal will be sealed by moonrise. You nod, you stand. You walk to the basin and wash your hands for longer than needed. You stare at your reflection and do not recognize the stillness in your eyes. You walk to the grove. He is there. This time, you speak. You tell him the truth about fear, about silence, about the ache of living in a world that gives you no words for what you carry inside. He listens. He does not interrupt. When you finish, he does not ask you to run. He only places a fig in your hand. Split, sweet, whole. You eat it. Together. Slowly. The sky darkens. You return home. The suitor waits in the courtyard. He stands when he sees you. You walk past him, into the house. You remove the bracelet. You place it on the table. You light the lamp. You sit. You breathe. The wedding does not happen. No one speaks of it. The days stretch on. The scrolls beneath your mat grow in number. The fig trees bloom again. Your mother begins to sing in the mornings. Your sister begins to walk barefoot. You begin to wait less. You begin to live more. You begin to carve names into the wood near your bed. Not his, yours. One day you visit the grove and he is not there. But a child plays near the tree. She hums your melody. She smiles. You do too. That night you write a new scroll. On it only this: I was here. I loved. I chose. The next morning, The wind carries your words away. You wake to the smell of smoke and herbs, to the distant bleating of goats and the scrape of a broom across stone, and for a moment you are no one again, not a daughter, or a promise, or a memory someone forgot to keep, just a body held together by warmth and dust and breath. The blanket slides from your shoulder as the wind shifts, bringing in the scent of the fig tree and the salt from the sea beyond the walls. You lie still and let the morning pass over you like a shadow. No one calls your name. No footsteps come to find you. The house stirs around you in the way old houses docile, resigned, full of tasks that will never be finished. Your mother hums a tune as she kneads dough. Your sister grinds barley, her rhythm sharp and certain. You rise and join them without words. They do not ask where your mind has been. They do not mention the suitor who never returned, or the silence that followed. This is the grace of women in this land. They know when to let things remain unspoken. The city outside is waking. You can hear it in the clatter of sandals, the hollow call of the peddlers, the low chant of temple boys sweeping courtyards. Life moves. It must. You take the path behind the granaries, past the abandoned well where moss clings like memory, and walk until the walls thin and the trees begin. You do not go to the grove today. Instead, you follow the road that leads to the stone-cut terraces above the vineyards. There is a fig tree there too, younger, its branches low enough to touch. You place your hand on one and think about how every tree here has seen more than you have. Its bark is rough beneath your fingers. You sit beneath it and watch the sun climb. No one joins you, but you are not alone. The shell he once gave you still lives inside the fold of your robe. You press it between your palms. It no longer feels like a gift. It feels like a truth. Somewhere below, women are dyeing cloth in great vats of madder root, staining linen with the red of love, of blood, of history. You remember how he once said that everything in this city wears someone else's past. The sandals, the prayers, the very words we speak. You wonder how many women have sat where you sit now, holding pieces of men who were never meant to stay. The sky sharpens as the day deepens. You return home slowly, feet coated in the dust of indecision. Your sister tells you a poet has arrived from Thebes, staying near the outer wall, offering to write names into verse for a price. You ask if names written in verse are remembered longer. She shrugs. Only if they rhyme. That night, you sit near the hearth and write one yourself. Just a few lines. They do not rhyme. They do not need to. The next morning, your scroll is gone. You ask no one, but someone has read you. The days stretch like thread on a spindle, each one pulling gently from the last, winding tighter. You begin to notice things again. The angle of light on olive branches, the smell of wine before it sours, the way a man tilts his head before he lies. One afternoon, you pass the grove again. There is no basket, no scroll. But on the stone where you used to sit, someone has carved a new line, a curve, a crescent, a moon. You press your fingers to it. You understand. At home, your mother speaks of a friend's son who will return from the war soon. She says his shoulder bears a mark from a Spartan spear. You think of bodies marked by battle, of hearts marked by silence. You say nothing. That evening, your sister sings while hanging herbs to dry. Her voice is clear. You sit and listen, wondering if anyone hears it the way you do, like hope folded in linen. You begin to help her more now, weaving, grinding, stitching. You begin to speak again, but not of him, never of him. That story has no ending. It simply became part of the wall. One night during the full moon, you walk alone through the city, passing the temple gates, the empty theater, the shuttered doors of houses too tired to dream. You carry a fig in your hand, not to eat, to offer. You place it on the doorstep of the poet's house, a gift from memory, a whisper to the future. You do not knock. You do not wait. In the days that follow, you find yourself drawn to the women who pass alone, who carry baskets balanced on their heads with grace, who meet your gaze without apology. You begin to understand that love here wears many faces. Some are soft, some are silent. Some are gone. You do not look for his anymore, but But sometimes, when the light is low and the wind turns, you think you hear his footsteps behind you. You never turn, not because you're afraid, but because you no longer need to. The memory is enough. One morning, the fig tree blossoms out of season. Your sister says it's a sign. Your mother says it's the weather. You pick a single bloom and press it into a scroll. You do not write anything else. It says all it needs to. Later, you walk past the poet's house again. A new verse is posted on the door. It begins with the name of a tree. It ends with the name of no one. You smile. The city begins to prepare for another festival. This one for Persephone's return. The women carry baskets of grain and light candles at the edges of the fields. You join them, not to pray, to remember. In the distance, a child runs through the grass, chasing a bird that will never land. You watch her. You watch the bird. You watch the sun fall behind the mountains. You place your hand over your heart. It beats. It still beats. The days grow warmer, not in the way that startles, but in the slow, certain way that spring always returns to this land, pressing softly into the edges of rooftops and hiding itself in the cracks of dry stones where lizards sleep. You notice it first in the air, the way it shifts beneath your fingers as you draw water from the well, heavier somehow, as though it carries more secrets than before. The birds have returned to the courtyard, arguing in the fig tree above your mother's washing lines, and your sister has taken to weaving outside again, her loom echoing faintly against the stone as she sings under her breath. You sit nearby, hands idle, watching her fingers move, remembering how long it took you to learn that silence is not the same as absence. You remember when he first stood behind you, not speaking, not touching, just breathing in rhythm with your hesitation. That rhythm returns now, in strange places, in the drip of water from the basin, in the soft beat of your sandals on the path to the market, in the sound your heart makes when your name is spoken by someone who does not know its story. The suitor's name is no longer mentioned. It disappeared from conversation like a breath in wind, and no one seems surprised. Your mother shifted instead to other tasks, talking of linens and festival days and a neighbor's daughter who might marry a merchant's son. You do not envy her, but sometimes you envy her certainty. That evening, a traveler arrives in the square, his clothes dusty from the road, his eyes too quiet. He sells small painted tiles, each bearing a symbol or a phrase or name etched in color. You pass him once, twice, 3 times before he speaks. He does not ask your name. He offers you a tile with a crescent moon. You hesitate. He smiles. "It's already yours," he says. You take it. That night, you press it beneath your pillow and dream of the sea, again not the open water, but the shore, where footprints vanish too quickly to follow. In the morning, the tile is still warm. You tuck it into the folds of your robe and say nothing. The city is louder now. The festival is near. Women dye their hands in wine, and young men carry branches through the streets, laughing, shouting, pretending not to care who watches. Your sister joins them, bare feet dusted in ash, a crown of olive leaves on her head. She dances as though nothing can reach her. You stand at the edge of it all and feel your chest tighten, not from sadness, but from distance, as though joy has become a language you no longer speak fluently. A woman beside you, older, offers you a ribbon. You take it and tie it around your wrist, red, for memory. That evening, you return to the fig tree near the terraces. The ground is covered in petals now, early and pale. You sit on the stone and close your eyes. You do not expect him, but he is there. You feel him before you see him, the way shadows arrive just before nightfall. He says your name like it still means something. He sits beside you, his hands resting on his knees, his eyes watching the hills below. You speak of nothing at first, then of the sea, then of the tile. He smiles and says he saw it in a dream long before he met you. You ask him if he believes in fate. He says he believes in choice. That fate is what people say when they are afraid to name what they want. You are quiet then, because you are tired of pretending you do not want. The wind shifts. He reaches into his satchel and pulls out a scroll. He places it beside you. For when you forget, he says, you do not open it. Not yet. When you rise to leave, he does not stop you. He only stands, nods once, and disappears into the trees. The walk home feels longer than before, not heavier, just full. You keep the scroll hidden for 3 days before you finally untie it. Inside, a single line. Your name, followed by a symbol. Not a heart, not a flower, just a path. You trace it with your finger until the ink smudges. The next morning, the traveler is gone. The tile seller. His stall stands empty. You ask no one. You return to the grove and leave the tile at the base of the tree. A mark, a memory, a message. The festival arrives in full. Music spills into alleys. Lamps flicker on every doorway. People drink too much and dance too wildly and say things they do not mean. You watch it all from the wall above the square, feet swinging, the ribbon still tight around your wrist. Below, someone plays a lyre. The melody is crooked, full of pauses. You hum along anyway. Your mother joins you. She does not speak. She does not need to. Her hand rests on your shoulder for a long time before she returns inside. The stars stretch above you like questions. You do not answer. You do not need to. The days after the festival are slower. Ash in the corners, wine stains on the stone. People sleep late and speak softly. You walk to the market and find the poet again. He asks if you have a new verse. You shake your head. He smiles. Some things are not poems, he says. You nod. You understand. That evening, your sister shows you a bundle of cloth she's been working on. A dress. Not white, not red, but indigo, the color of dusk. She offers it to you. You try it on. It fits too well. You do not ask how she knew. You do not ask anything. The next morning, you wear it and walk to the grove. He is waiting. He does not speak. He only looks at you like he has never seen color before. You sit beside him, closer than before. He reaches for your hand. You let him. You do not speak of tomorrow, or of marriage, or of where this road leads. You only speak of now. The sky darkens. You stay longer than you should. You leave with the scent of fig and ash in your hair. That night, you write again. A new scroll, a single word. Here. You place it beneath your mat and sleep without dreams. You return to the grove one final time before the new season changes everything. Before the market fills with travelers again, before your mother speaks the names of strangers with soft insistence, and your sister begins to wear her hair differently, before the path that brought you here begins to vanish beneath new footsteps and new weather, and the forgetting that always comes. The sun is lower now, even in the early afternoon, its light filtering through the leaves like a secret passed between friends. You walk slowly, pressing your heel into the dirt with each step, memorizing the sound it makes, like closing a door, like a promise you don't want to make. The fig tree has dropped most of its fruit by now. The ground is sticky with sweetness, and bees move lazily from skin to petal, unbothered by your presence. You sit without looking to see if he is there. You no longer need to. The space beside you carries his breath, even in absence. He arrives without sound. You do not greet him. You simply breathe. He places something in your lap. A stone. Smooth. Familiar. This one carved with a spiral. No words, just motion. He does not explain. You do not ask. You trace the spiral with your thumb and wonder how many times you've already walked it without knowing. He speaks only once, to say your name. You close your eyes and let it settle around you like a shawl. You stay until the sun vanishes and the shadows stretch into long, tender shapes. When you stand, he does not follow. He does not watch you leave. But you feel him still. Like warmth left in a cushion, like laughter echoing behind a door just shut. At home, your mother says nothing. She places bread on the table, pours water into the bowl, sits quietly with you. Her silence no longer feels like distance. It feels like recognition. She sees you now, not as a daughter or a task or a worry to carry, but as a person, complete, unfolding. That night you do not dream. The morning comes early, the light sharper than before. You wrap the spiral stone in cloth and place it beneath the floorboards near your mat. Not hidden, kept. Your sister asks where you go each day. You tell her to the fig tree. She nods as if she already knew. Later, you find her beneath it, humming a melody you thought only you remembered. The world does not stop turning. The market reopens. The poet leaves. The traveler returns with new tiles. This time, you do not take one. You simply smile. He bows low and disappears into the crowd. Your mother begins to speak again of marriages. Not yours, your cousin's. A boy from another village. She worries it will not last. You tell her that most things don't, and that this does not make them failures. She looks at you strangely. She says you sound older. You do not feel older, only less uncertain. One afternoon, a stranger arrives at the well. His clothes are new, his hair tied with a gold thread. He offers you a date. You decline. He smiles and asks if you have a husband. You tell him you have a story. He laughs like he does not understand. That night, you write his name in the dirt and watch the wind erase it. The next day, your sister finds a bird with a broken wing near the courtyard. She wraps it in linen and sings to it. You sit beside her and help grind barley. The bird lives, for a while. One evening, you see him again, not in the grove, not in the market, but across the city wall, standing where the wind pushes hardest, looking out toward nothing. You do not call to him. You only watch. You know that this is how it must be, that some people are not meant to stay, only to teach you how to remain with yourself. Days pass. The fig tree loses its last leaf. Rain comes, slow and persistent. The house smells of damp wool and clay. Your scrolls grow in number. You begin to tie them in bundles. You do not read them. You do not need to. You lived them. Your sister asks what you will do with them. You say nothing. She begins to write her own. The sound of the stylus on parchment becomes a comfort. The fire crackles. The oil lamp flickers. Life becomes quiet again, but not empty. One morning, a woman arrives at your door. She wears robes from another city. She carries salt and honey and a story in her eyes. She sits with your mother and speaks of old gods, of temples buried in sand, of oracles who once named the future in riddles. You listen from the shadows. She sees you and smiles. Later, she finds you beneath the fig tree. She does not ask who you wait for. She only says, "Some pla," says remember. You nod. She leaves a small jar at your feet and disappears. Inside, you find a scrap of linen, stained with wine, wrapped around a pomegranate seed. You do not understand, but you keep it. Days stretch on. You begin to dream again, not of him, but of yourself, walking roads you've never seen, speaking languages you do not know, laughing without reason. You wake with your hand over your heart. It still beats. You begin to teach your sister how to read the stars. She learns quickly. One night, you sit together on the roof and name each constellation with a story of your own. She laughs and adds her own endings. The sky listens. The wind listens. Somewhere, you think, he listens too. You carve a final symbol into the wood by your mat. Not a name, not a moon, just a spiral. You place the last scroll beside it. You do not seal it. You do not hide it. You sleep well. You wake with the sun. The rains pass slowly, like a guest reluctant to leave, and with them go the last brittle traces of the dry season, carried off the rooftops and into the gullies where forgotten things gather. The city breathes again, its streets washed clean, the dust tamped down into clay beneath 1,000 footsteps. You step outside in the early morning light, and the air smells of time and stone, as though the earth itself has remembered something it lost long ago. Your sandals leave perfect impressions behind you, and you follow them with your eyes, wondering who else might trace your path when you are no longer there. Your sister is already awake, combing her hair in the doorway, humming the same old song she swore she hated. You smile at the contradiction and do not comment. The fig tree has not yet begun to bloom again, but small buds line its branches, green and full of quiet promises. The woman from another city, the one who spoke of buried temples and old gods, has not returned. But you find her jar still on your windowsill, the linen within it dried and curling at the edges. You hold the pomegranate seed in your palm, and imagine the orchard it came from, the hands that picked it, the story it once belonged to. You do not eat it. You place it in a small clay bowl and leave it on your mat. It feels like it needs a place to rest. The poet returns with a limp and a new beard, claiming he saw a vision in a mountain cave. You do not believe him, but you sit and listen anyway. His verses are softer now, less eager to impress. He recites one without names, without endings. You like it better that way. That night, you write a new scroll. It begins with a question you do not intend to answer. It ends with your sister's laugh. You do not tie it. You tuck it into the folds of your robe and carry it like a talisman. In the market, a potter sets out a new line of vessel seeds shaped like a woman, each different, no two the same. You ask him why. He says love cannot be repeated. You think of that for a long time after. One evening, you find a scrap of fabric caught in the fig tree's branches. Indigo, like your dress. You do not remember losing it. You do not remember it being part of anything, but it feels familiar. You tie it to your wrist and say nothing. Later, your sister notices and nods once. Acknowledgement. The moon is fuller now, not quite round, but near enough. The city prepares for another feast, this one in honor of Demeter. Baskets of grain line the temple steps, and the smell of honeyed cakes follows you through every street. You help knead dough in the courtyard, your hands sticky with flour and thought. Your mother sings again, and the sound feels older than her, like something passed down in blood and breath. You join in, quietly. Not for her, for yourself. That night, a young man appears outside your gate with a lyre and a foolish grin. He sings of stars and war and women with eyes like olives. Your sister laughs and throws him a fig. You do not come to the door, but you listen. The song is not for you, and still it finds you. In the morning, you take the scroll from your robe and leave it in the grove, beneath the stone. A new offering. A closed circle. You walk away without turning back. The next day, someone has drawn a spiral beside it. Not carved, just drawn. With ash or wine or something impermanent. It will not last. That is why it matters. The season shifts again. Your hands are chapped from cold water and washing. Your thoughts are quieter, more deliberate. You speak less and hear more. You notice how often people lie to be kind. You begin to speak truth gently, like a feather against skin. Some days you visit the sea, not to swim, just to watch. The waves do not remember you, but you remember them. You sit on the shore with your legs folded beneath you and trace spirals into the sand until the tide takes them. Each one feels different, though they are all the same. A merchant offers you a necklace made of glass beads. You do not buy it, but you ask his name. He tells you, and for a moment, you imagine WR eyeing it down. Then you let it go. The next scroll you write is not about love. It is about stillness, about mornings when nothing happens, about waiting without needing. You seal it with wax and hide it in the fig tree's hollow. The tree accepts it. You feel it. One night, your sister dreams of a city that floats above the sea, where people speak without words and walk on water. She wakes crying. You hold her hand until she sleeps again. You remember when you needed that. You remember who gave it. You wonder if they still think of you. But you do not wonder for long. A girl from another village visits with her mother. She is meant to be promised soon. She watches you carefully, her eyes curious. She asks if love is supposed to feel like thunder. You say sometimes. She asks if it is always meant to stay. You say rarely. She smiles like she understands. You give her a piece of olive branch and tell her to keep it until it wilts. She does. When she leaves, she presses her forehead to yours. Gratitude. You sit beneath the fig tree alone and close your eyes. You think of all the things you never said. All the versions of yourself that only existed for a moment in someone's glance or a fleeting touch. You thank them, You let them go. You begin to breathe more deeply. You begin to walk more slowly. You begin to feel like you belong to yourself again. The spiral lives on your wrist now, inked in henna, fading with each bath. You redraw it when needed, not as a symbol, as a map. The next time you see him, it is not him, just someone with his eyes, his gait, his silence. He passes you on the road and nods. You nod back. Nothing aches. That night, your mother tells a story about her youth, about a boy who brought her a broken comb and said it was all he had. She never saw him again. She says she still has the comb. You ask if she regrets it. She says no. Some things are meant to be beginnings only. You sleep well. You wake early. You begin again. The mornings begin to arrive earlier now, slipping through the cracks in the shutters before your eyes have fully opened, casting golden slivers across the stone floor, warming the clay jugs and turning dust into dancing sparks. You wake with the feeling that you've been watched over, not by anyone in particular, but by the quiet itself. As if sleep has become a room you enter and leave gently, careful not to disturb the memories stacked in the corners. The fig tree outside has grown leaves again, pale and uncertain, like children trying out their first words. Your sister ties pieces of dyed cloth between the branches, each one bearing a simple imagine-I, a wave, a spiral, a hand. She calls them her silent prayers. You do not ask what she prays for. Some things are not meant to be shared. Instead, you bring her a basket of reeds from the riverbank, and she weaves them into bracelets while telling stories she claims to have heard from the wind. One is about a girl who never spoke, but everyone believed they knew her thoughts. You ask if she was happy. Your sister shrugs. Maybe, she says. Maybe not. The markets are quieter now. The festivals have passed, and the city has returned to its rhythm of barter and breath. The baker nods at you with flour on his cheek. The weaver offers you cloth you do not need. You accept it anyway. That night, you fashion it into a cover for your scrolls. The texture feels wrong in your hands, but right against your chest. You wear it as a sash and go walking before the sun has set. The road you take winds beyond the last house, past the olive groves, and down to the place where the land flattens near the sea. No one waits for you there, and still you return. The waves no longer startle you. They speak in a language you've begun to understand, a rhythm of leaving and returning, of offering and taking, of beginnings that do not ask for endings. You sit on a flat stone and write a name you have not spoken in months into the sand with your toe. It is not a summons, it is not a farewell, just a shape, a breath made visible. It fades before the tide reaches it. You are grateful. On the walk home, you collect a handful of smooth stones, each the size of your palm, and carry them in your robe like secret weight. At home, you place them in a bowl beside your mat. Your mother eyes them, but says nothing. Your silence is no longer suspicious. It has become familiar. That evening, you light the oil lamp earlier than usual and sit cross-legged beside your sister, watching her sort dried herbs into small pouches. She explains their uses without looking up: lavender for sleep, thyme for courage, mint for memory. You ask which she uses most. She does not answer. Later, you find a pouch beside your mat tied with blue string. It smells like all three. In the temple courtyard, a woman draws circles with chalk on the stone, humming to herself. No one stops her. You sit nearby and watch as she finishes one, then begins another just beside it. She does this for hours. When she finishes, she steps into the center of the last one, closes her eyes, and raises her arms. You do not ask what it means. You only remember it. At home, you recreate the pattern in your mind and draw it on a scrap of parchment before sleep takes you. You dream of standing in that circle as birds fly overhead in impossible shapes. The next morning, the pattern is still there, but the chalk is gone. The wind took it. That is what makes it sacred. You help your mother grind barley that week. Your hands ache from the work, but the ache feels honest, like proof of being present. She tells you a story about the first loaf she ever made. She burned it. She fed it to a stray dog. The dog followed her for years. You ask if she missed it when it died. She says she still sets out scraps in its memory, not for it, but for what it taught her. The poet appears at the gate again, holding a reed flute instead of parchment. He plays 3 notes, badly, then laughs at himself. You laugh too. He offers to trade it for one of your scrolls. You give him the one that begins with the sound of footsteps on dry leaves. He reads it aloud beside the fig tree, and your sister listens without pretending not to. That evening, she asks to see more. You show her only the ones that do not carry names, the ones written for the wind. She says those are her favorites. You sit together in silence long after the lamps have been blown out. The darkness is no longer empty. It holds shape. It holds meaning. The next morning, you find a shell on your doorstep. No note, no sign, just the shell. Inside it, a small sprig of rosemary, fresh and sharp. You carry it with you to the market and press it into the folds of your sash. The scent follows you like a ghost, a gentle one. A girl at the well tells you about a dream she had where her hands turned to leaves. She asks if that's strange. You say no. She smiles and touches your wrist before walking away. That night, you write a scroll with nothing but questions. You do not intend to answer any of them. You burn it in the courtyard and watch the ashes settle into the cracks. You feel lighter. The fig tree blossoms. The air shifts again. Someone paints a new mural on the outer wall of the bathhouse, 2 figures facing each other, neither touching. A space between them filled with stars. You stare at it for a long time, then walk home without speaking. That evening, you draw stars on the inside of your palm and do not wash them off. You sleep with your hand beneath your cheek and dream of constellations that no one has named yet. You wake with the taste of honey in your mouth. There are days when everything feels suspended, like the world has exhaled and forgotten to breathe in again, when the birds wait longer before singing, and the sky holds its color like a secret. On such a day, you walk alone to the hillside beyond the fig grove, where the earth is warm and soft beneath your sandals, and the grass bends without resistance. The wind moves gently, as if it too is remembering. You sit with your knees pulled to your chest and watch the clouds shift shapes in slow procession, like actors preparing for a play no one will see. The quiet here is different. Not absence, but presence. Like a room filled with someone you love who does not speak. You begin to hum without realizing it. A song without words that your grandmother once sang while brushing your hair in a house you barely recall. The notes carry across the field, and somewhere in the distance, a bird answers with its own refrain. You close your eyes. You are not lonely. You are alone. There is a difference. When you return home, the door is open. Your sister is not there. Your mother sits beside a basket of olives, her hands stained deep green. She looks up and smiles, the kind that says everything is as it should be. You sit across from her, and she hands you an olive without saying a word. You eat it slowly, pit between your teeth, salt on your tongue. The taste is familiar, anchored, the kind of flavor that calls something back from long ago. That night, the stars are sharper. You can see their edges. You climb to the roof with a clay bowl filled with warm water and float rosemary leaves in it, watching them circle like tiny boats. Your sister joins you, her arms wrapped around her knees. She tells you she wants to leave one day, not forever, just to see what the world beyond the walls looks like. You nod. You tell her the world is wider than she thinks, but smaller than it feels. She says she will take one scroll with her. Yours. You smile and promise to write one just for her. You already have. The next morning, you place it beneath her sleeping mat, wrapped in soft cloth and tied with reed. You do not watch her find it. Some moments are meant to be private. In the market, a man sells wooden birds with wings that flap when pulled by a string. You buy one without reason. You place it on your windowsill and watch it move in the breeze. It has no sound. You love it for that. Later, a stranger arrives asking for stories. Not names, not places, just stories. You offer him a tale about a girl who grew figs from her hands and fed the entire village. He asks if it's true. You say all stories are, in some way. He laughs and leaves a shell in your palm. It's smooth and warm from his hand. You keep it in your sash, next to the rosemary. The fig tree begins to fruit again. Small, tight, dark purple. You pick 3 and place them on the stone near the grove. Not as a gift, as a remembrance. You sit beside them until dusk, then walk home slowly, letting the day end without resistance. You begin to speak less. Not because you have nothing to say, but because the words have learned to rest longer inside you before surfacing. When they come, they are softer, shaped by silence. Your mother notices. She says you sound like your father. You ask if that's good. She says it's different. Not better, not worse. Just different. That night, you dream of a staircase made of petals and wind, each step vanishing as you climb. You wake with tears in your ears and laughter on your lips. Your sister says you were speaking in your sleep. She does not repeat what you said. You thank her for that. One evening, a girl from the neighboring village arrives with herbs and cloth. She is betrothed. She wants to learn how to write something beautiful. You give her a scroll and tell her to trace its rhythm, not its shape. She struggles. You tell her that beauty is not in how it looks, but in how it feels when you return to it. She smiles. She comes back the next day with her own scroll. It is messy. Unfolding. Perfect. You tell her so. She cries. You do not comfort her. She does not need it. A boy brings your sister a handful of sea glass and says he found it just for her. She tells him she does not like the sea. He asks what she does like. She says fig trees. He says he will climb one. She tells him not to. He does anyway. Falls. She bandages his arm without saying a word. That night, she asks you if that's love. You say maybe. Maybe not. The next day, she writes a poem about a bird who could only fly when no one watched. You tell her to keep it. She burns it instead. The ash flies up like stars. You do not stop her. You begin to notice how many things bloom just before they fall. The mural at the bathhouse begins to peel. The stars between the figures fade. Someone paints over it with blue. You watch it happen and feel nothing. That too is a kind of peace. You tie a piece of that same blue cloth around your wrist and do not explain why. It feels like closure, or beginning, or both. You teach your sister how to grind pigments into paint. She covers her hands in ochre and leaves prints along the garden wall. Your mother says she's ruining it. You say she's blessing it. Your mother laughs for a long time. It sounds like something being freed. You sleep easily that night. You wake before the sun. You carry a scroll to the grove and read it aloud to the empty space. You do not imagine anyone listening, but you speak as if someone is. The words leave your mouth like birds returning home. You walk away slowly, without looking back. The fig tree bends slightly in the wind. You pretend it's waving. You wave back. There is a moment just before dawn when the world seems unsure whether it wants to continue. When the light does not yet belong to day but no longer trusts the night, and everything you see feels borrowed, as though someone else lived here first. You rise in that moment, with the dew still clinging to the courtyard tiles, with the fig leaves shivering not from wind but from anticipation. The house is silent. Even the birds seem to wait. You carry a clay jar of water out to the garden and pour it slowly along the roots of the rosemary, listening to the sound it makes, like something being remembered. Your sister stirs inside, her footsteps soft and unformed. She does not speak. Neither do you. Some mornings are too full to touch with language. You return to your mat and unroll one of your oldest scrolls, the one with creases along its edges from being opened too often. You do not read it. You just hold it, letting your fingers trace the curve of each fold, the faded ink that once felt like prophecy. Outside, the market begins its daily murmur. A boy cries out about dates. A woman laughs too loudly. A cartwheel squeaks its familiar rhythm. Life resumes, but you do not rise with it. You sit still, not because you are tired, but because motion feels like forgetting. Eventually, you stand and braid your hair slowly, deliberately, as if weaving something unseen into each strand. Your mother notices. She smiles but does not speak. Her silence is no longer withholding. It has become a shelter. You leave the house and follow the path behind the well, the one worn not by feet but by gaze, a way people look toward when they think of going somewhere else. You reach the grove, and the fig tree stands unchanged, which means it has changed in ways you do not yet see. A stone near its base has cracked. A bird sings in a new pitch. You kneel and place your hand against the trunk. The bark feels warmer than expected. You whisper something without knowing what it is. It leaves your mouth like breath, returns to you as stillness. Later, your sister finds you in the same spot and sits beside you, not asking what you think, not offering her own thoughts, just presence. Just weight beside weight. She hands you a small bundle linen folded around 3 smooth stones. You unwrap them carefully. One bears a sun, one a wave, one a spiral. You do not ask where she got them. You only press them to your chest and breathe. At home, your mother prepares a meal of lentils and herbs, and you help slice the onions while your sister fans the fire. The smell is sharp and comforting. As you eat, no one speaks of plans or futures. The meal is a kind of prayer, each bite an offering to the present moment. Afterward, you help wash the bowls in silence, watching the water swirl in patterns that vanish too quickly to name. That night, you light a lamp and place it near the window so that the wind cannot touch it. You sit beside it and open a blank scroll, your stylus hovering. You do not write a story, you write a list of sounds. The rustle of fig leaves, the way your sister sighs when she sleeps, the chirp of a lizard beneath the stones, the sigh of water over clay, the cracking of your knuckles. The world is made of sounds you forget to hear. The scroll fills slowly, and you roll it tight, tie it with twine, and place it beside the others. It will not be read. That is not its purpose. Days pass like footsteps in sand. You begin to walk more often, not toward anything, but within something. The hills around the city grow greener with each passing dusk. You find a patch of wild thyme and sit among it, letting the scent stain your robe. You think about a boy you knew once who never finished his sentences. You wonder what his endings would have been. You do not miss him, but you remember him gently. One afternoon, a group of travelers passes through the market, singing a hymn to Artemis. Their voices blend in a way that makes your chest ache. You follow them briefly, not to join, but to witness. One girl carries a bundle of reeds tied with red string. She looks back at you and smiles, as if recognizing you from a dream. You smile back. She does not stop. That night, you dream of a temple with no doors, only curtains made of feathers. You wake with your heart steady and your hands open. You write nothing about it. You keep it for yourself. Your sister begins to spend more time at the fig tree. You do not ask what she does there. Some journeys are better walked without echoes. One day, she returns with ink on her fingers and a smile that does not need explaining. You kiss her forehead and return to your scrolls. A crack has appeared in the courtyard wall. You trace it with your fingers and feel how the stone sighs beneath your touch. You press a dried petal into the gap and walk away. You wonder if anyone will ever find it. You hope they do, or don't. One evening, the wind carries a scent you cannot name, and for a moment, your eyes fill with tears. You do not know why. You do not question it. The fig tree bends slightly in the breeze. You place your hand on its bark and breathe with it. You leave a scroll tied with olive leaves at its base. You walk home slowly, the wind behind you like a memory. That night, you sleep without dreams. The days begin to stretch again, not with urgency, but with invitation, like a friend who sits beside you without needing to speak, allowing you to decide when the silence ends. The sun arrives slowly in the mornings, casting soft light over the courtyard tiles, illuminating the patterns worn into them by years of footsteps and spills and rain. You rise before your sister, before your mother, before the birds, and you stand at the edge of the garden, watching the dew retreat like shy guests, leaving behind only the scent of wet thyme and stone. You wrap your shawl tighter and sit on the steps with your hands wrapped around your knees, listening for anything that might need listening to. Somewhere in the distance, a goat bleats once and a door creaks open. Life is waking but gently. You stay still until the light touches the top of the fig tree, and then you move. The day is quiet, a kind of hush that settles over everything, as if the world itself is waiting for something. You decide to walk to the river, not because you need to, but because your feet want to. The path is familiar, but every step feels new in the soft light. You pass a group of boys skipping stones, and a woman gathering wild onions, her basket already full. You nod to her. She nods back. That is enough. At the river, the water runs slower than usual. You sit on a flat stone and dip your fingers into the current. It is cold, but not cruel. You watch the surface ripple around your skin, and for a moment, it feels like the river is listening too. A leaf floats by, spinning slowly, and you follow it with your eyes until it disappears behind a bend. On the way home, you collect a few smooth stones and carry them in the fold of your robe. At home, your sister is awake, braiding her hair in front of the mirror. She does not speak. You place one of the stones on the ledge beside her and leave the others near the fig tree. She says nothing, but later, you find the stone in your sandal, a silent exchange of attention. Your mother prepares lentils again, this time with garlic and lemon, and you eat together in the shade of the courtyard, the air thick with the smell of herbs and memory. After the meal, you help her clean the dishes, your hands moving in rhythm with hers, each gesture practiced and quiet. Later, you sit beneath the fig tree and begin a new scroll. This one is different. It is not a story. It is not a poem. It is a list of things you have noticed how the fig tree always leans slightly to the left, how your sister hums only when she thinks no one is listening, how the color of the sky changes just before rain. You write until the light begins to fade, and then you roll the scroll tightly and place it beneath your mat, not to keep it hidden, just to keep it close. That evening, a boy comes to the gate carrying a bundle of wildflowers. He asks for your sister. She meets him at the door, accepts the flowers, and closes the gate behind her. You watch through the window as they walk down the path, her hair swinging gently, his hands full of questions. You smile. You do not follow. Instead, you light a lamp and sit by the window, letting the glow warm your face. You do not wait for her return. She knows the way back. That night, you dream of birds made of clay, their wings cracking as they try to fly. You wake with your heart calm and your hands empty. The morning comes with clouds, thick and low, and you spend it rearranging your scrolls, placing the older ones on the bottom and the newer ones near the top. You notice how your handwriting has changed. Softer now, less certain, but more honest. You smile at that. Later, your mother tells a story about her youth, about a festival where she danced barefoot until dawn and woke with bruises on her heels. You ask if it was worth it. She says yes, without hesitation. Your sister returns in the afternoon, her cheeks flushed and her eyes bright. She says little, but she does not need to. Her silence is a story you already understand. You sit beside her and braid her hair, your fingers working slowly, carefully, as if each strand carries something sacred. That evening, the boy returns and offers a small wooden figure he carved. It looks like a bird. She accepts it and places it on the windowsill beside your scrolls. You do not ask if she loves him. You do not ask if she will. Some answers are not for words. That night, you begin another scroll, this one about absence not loss. But the space is left behind when someone chooses to leave. You write about the sound of footsteps fading, the way the air feels after a door has closed. You write about your own absences, the ones no one noticed. You finish it just before dawn and tuck it beneath a stone near the fig tree. You do not sign your name. In the morning, your sister places a single fig beside it. A reply. You say nothing. The day continues, soft and slow, and the sky holds its breath. You return to the river and find the same flat stone waiting. You sit again and listen. The water is faster now, but it still remembers you. You close your eyes and breathe. Some days arrive without knocking, slipping in quietly through the edges of the sky, brushing past your shoulders as you stir from sleep, unnoticed, until you're already halfway through them. On such a morning, the light has a softness that feels deliberate, as though the sun has decided to speak in whispers. You wake to the sound of a spoon tapping gently against a clay cup, your mother already moving in the kitchen, her footsteps padded by years of routine. Your sister is still asleep, her breath steady, her hand curled beneath her chin. You do not wake her. Instead, you rise, wash your face in the basin, and step outside. The air carries the scent of earth and lemon balm. You close your eyes and let it settle around you. There is no urgency in your limbs, only presence. You walk barefoot across the courtyard, letting the coolness of the stone seep into your soles. You pause by the fig tree and press your palm against the bark. It feels like memory textured, warm, holding everything it cannot say. You whisper nothing to it this time. You simply listen. At the market, a man sells painted tiles, each bearing symbols you do not recognize. You choose one with a single curved line across its center. He says it means returning. You do not ask what it is meant to return to. You carry it home in your sash, pressed close to your ribs. Your sister joins you later in the day, her eyes bright and distant, as if she's just come back from somewhere not entirely physical. She sits beside you without speaking, her shoulder brushing yours. You hand her the tile. She runs her fingers over it and smiles. No words are exchanged, none are needed. In the afternoon, the sky darkens with the promise of rain. You gather the scrolls from the courtyard and bring them inside, stacking them carefully beneath the overhang. One slips from your hands and unrolls at your feet. It is the one about silence. You read the first few lines, and then roll it back up. Slower this time. Some things age with grace. That evening, you sit by the window and watch the rain arrive. It does not pour. It gathers, drop by drop, as if the sky is testing the earth's patience. The fig tree trembles, not from wind, but from relief. Your sister places her carved bird on the windowsill, just beside the lamp. Its wings seem to move in the lamplight. You begin a scroll about birds that forget how to fly and find peace in walking. You do not finish it. You fall asleep mid-sentence, your hand still curled around the stylus. In your dream, you walk through a forest of voices, none of them calling your name, but all of them sounding like home. You wake with the sound still in your ears. The next morning, your mother tells you she dreamed of your father. He did not speak, but he placed something in her hand. She does not say what it was. You do not ask. Later, you find her sitting in the garden, her hands resting on her lap, eyes closed, face soft. You sit beside her, and for a long time, you both remain that way. Two bodies breathing in rhythm, letting the day move around you. That afternoon, your sister writes her first scroll. She does not show it to you. She ties it with red string and places it beneath her mat. That night, you leave a small bowl of thyme water outside her door. A gesture, a blessing, a mirror. The rain continues for 3 days. The world softens beneath it. The roads become slower. The market thins. The fig tree sheds 2 leaves. You spend your days inside, sorting herbs, reading old scrolls, sitting with your mother in quiet companionship. One evening, a neighbor visits. She brings fresh bread and asks for help naming her daughter. You offer a few suggestions. She smiles and says she will choose the one that sounds like water. As she leaves, she touches your arm and says, "You remind me of someone I once loved." You do not ask who. You only say thank you. That night, you begin a scroll about names that are never spoken aloud. You write it in the dark, letting the shape of the letters guide your hand. In the morning, you cannot read what you've written, but you keep it anyway. A talisman of trust. The sun returns, pale but present. The fig tree catches the light on its uppermost leaves. You notice that the spiral stone your sister gave you has cracked. You do not mourn it. You place it at the base of the tree and cover it with soil. a small burial, a quiet honoring. That evening, you gather with your sister and mother in the courtyard. You do not speak of anything important. You slice fruit, pass cups of warm drink, laugh at a story you've all heard before. As the light fades, your mother begins to hum, a tune from her youth, one your grandmother sang. You close your eyes and let it carry you. That night, you dream of walking backward through time, your footsteps aligning with those of everyone who came before you. You are not alone. You are not afraid. You wake with your heart steady. The world has shifted again, not drastically, just enough. Enough to notice, enough to remember. The tile you bought now sits above your door. The curve across it gleams in the light of the rising sun, a sign, a promise. A gentle beginning of something you do not yet have words for. And still, you step forward. Some seasons shift not with thunder or bloom, but in the quiet space between footsteps, in the way a familiar path feels new beneath your feet without reason, in how the air holds a softness it did not carry the day before. You wake into such a shift. The morning is not colder, not brighter, just different. You notice it in the way the shadows fall along the wall, in how the clay cup feels heavier in your hand, in how the fig tree hums differently when touched by wind. You sit with it. You let the change settle into your bones. Your sister rises later than usual, her hair tousled, her voice quiet. She joins you at the table, takes a bite of bread, and looks toward the door as if something waits outside that she is not yet ready to meet. You say nothing. You pour her a cup of tea. She thanks you with her eyes. Your mother busies herself with a basket of wool, sorting fibers with practiced fingers. Her presence anchors the room. The rain has stopped. The earth smells of waking things. You walk the edge of the courtyard and find small sprouts between the tiles green, insistent, soft. You do not pull them. You leave them to become whatever they are meant to be. That afternoon, you sit by the fig tree with a scroll and do not write. You hold the stylus, feel its weight, and let your eyes wander across the garden. A lizard scurries past your toes. A bee hovers near your ear. The world breathes around you, slow and steady. Your sister sits beside you, her hands busy with thread. She is making something small and round, though you do not know what. She does not tell you. You do not ask. There is comfort in shared silence. Later, she leaves the thread in your lap, unfinished. You carry it inside and place it on your mat. That night, you light a lamp and watch its flame flicker against the stone wall. You remember a story your grandmother told about a girl who could speak to fire. You wonder what she would say now. The shadows shift. You feel her presence like warmth along your back. You sleep with one hand on your heart. In your dream, you walk through a city made of paper, each house folded with care, each street lined with ink. The wind tears at the edges. You try to hold it all together. You wake just before it collapses. The next morning, your sister finds you by the well, your hands damp, your eyes distant. She hands you a fig, perfectly ripe. You eat it slowly, letting the sweetness settle your stomach. You do not speak. She stays with you until the light shifts. The day unfolds gently. A neighbor arrives with news of a celebration too young people to be joined. You listen politely, offer a small smile. She invites you to the gathering. You nod. That night, you prepare your robe carefully, smoothing each fold, tying the sash just right. Your mother combs your hair in silence. Her hands are soft, methodical. Your sister brings you a sprig of rosemary for your wrist. You take her hand and squeeze it once. The celebration is simple dancers moving in time with flutes, bread passed from hand to hand, laughter rising like birds at dusk. You sit at the edge and watch. The couple stands beneath a canopy of branches, their fingers intertwined. They say little, they smile. It is enough. You feel the weight of your own hands in your lap. You do not long for theirs. You do not envy. You simply watch. Later, your sister joins the dancers. She moves with grace and lightness, her laughter rising above the music. You sit beside your mother. She leans her head on your shoulder. Neither of you says a word. On the way home, the stars are bright and scattery, D. Your sister skips ahead, her robe catching the wind. You walk slowly, your mother beside you, the night wrapping around your shoulders like memory. Back at home, you remove the rosemary from your wrist and place it on your mat. It still carries the scent of her hands. You sleep deeply. The days that follow are warm and open. The fig tree bears fruit again. You gather some in a woven basket and leave a few beneath the stone where you once placed your scroll. You do not know if anyone takes them. That is not the point. You begin a new scroll, not a story, not a list, just impressions. The way the light shifts across the garden wall, the sound of your sister singing beneath her breath, the rhythm of your own heartbeat when the world grows quiet. You write until your hand aches, then you stop. You place the scroll beneath your pillow. That night, your dreams are soft and full of color. You wake with a smile you do not understand. You find your sister by the fig tree, her fingers stained with ink. She shows you a small piece of cloth with symbols stitched into it. You recognize Onia spiral. She says it means beginning. You take it and place it on your robe. That evening the wind returns, carrying with it the scent of something you cannot name. You stand at the window and let it wash over you. You feel something shift inside. Not a breaking, not a blooming, just movement. You sit by the lamp and begin a letter to someone you will never send it to. You fill it with things you've never said aloud. You fold it carefully and place it in the basket with the wool. The next day, your mother finds it and says nothing. She kisses your forehead. That is answer enough. You return to the fig tree and sit until the stars rise. You breathe in time with the wind. You close your eyes and listen. The world is changing again. The sun rises slower now, as if uncertain whether to appear at all. And in that lingering moment between night and light, the air feels thicker, more saturated with things unspoken. You wake before the house stirs, drawn not by duty but by something quieter, more persistent. The courtyard tiles are damp beneath your feet. A clay cup rests by the doorway where you left it yesterday, now spotted with dust and tiny petals blown in by the wind. You do not move it. You let it remain. You walk toward the fig tree, its silhouette familiar. Yet each visit reveals something changed. A new bend in the bark, a deeper hollow in its roots. You press your palm against it and exhale, not as a ritual but as recognition. The sky overhead is soft gray, a color that doesn't promise rain but remembers it. You sit at the base of the tree and close your eyes. There is no rush, no task, only being. The world hums in small ways, the rustle of leaves, the crackle of distant fire, the occasional whisper of a dove shifting on the roof. Your sister joins you, her robe drawn tightly across her chest, her breath visible in the morning chill. She does not greet you. She sits beside you and offers a piece of fig wrapped in linen. You eat it without speaking. Its sweetness is startling, almost like sunlight turned into fruit. Later that morning, your mother brings out an old wooden box, one you haven't seen in years. She opens it on the table and reveals folded linens, worn combs, and a pair of sandals too small for either of you now. She lifts each item with a reverence you don't question. She speaks of a cousin who once stayed with her during a festival, how they shared stories late into the night and promised things they never fulfilled. Her voice is soft, like something being remembered from underwater. You listen, not for the facts, but for the rhythm, the space between her words where the truth lives. Afterward, you help her refold everything and return it to the box. It feels heavier now, though nothing has changed. That evening, you sit by the window with your stylus and scroll, and you begin to write not a memory, not a dream, but a moment. A single exchange of glances across a courtyard, a hand brushing the hem of a robe. The way someone once said your name without needing to. You do not name them. You do not describe their face. You let the feeling carry the weight of it all. Your sister braids your hair in silence. Her fingers are slower than usual, careful, as if translating something into strands. When she finishes, she ties the end with a strip of cloth bearing a stitched crescent. She does not explain its meaning. You do not ask. That night, you sleep with the scroll beneath your mat. It bends slightly to fit your shape. In your dream, you are underwater, walking along the floor of a sea filled with candles that do not flicker. You wake with the taste of salt on your lips. The next day, A girl from the village arrives with questions about herbs. Your mother guides her through the garden, naming each plant with care. You watch from a distance, noting how the girl's shoulders relax, how her hands hover over each leaf with hesitation and awe. Before leaving, she hands your sister a small ring carved from olive wood. A gift. A beginning. You watch the exchange and feel nothing sharp, only a quiet expansion inside you, like your chest has become a room with one more window. That afternoon, the wind rises. It carries the scent of distant fires and something floral you cannot name. You walk along the edge of the fields until the world blurs into color. At the far edge, a boy is herding goats. He does not see you, or perhaps he does and chooses not to. Either way, it is the same. You return home and find your sister sketching the outline of a bird on clay. She asks if wings can remember flight. You do not know, but later that night, you shape a scroll around that question. You write of things that were once true and might be again. You let your sentences trail off. Not everything needs to end. Some thoughts only want to be held. Days stretch. The fig tree drops more leaves. Your mother sings less. Your sister laughs more. You write often but share less. Not out of secrecy, but because some things become more true in solitude. One morning, you wake to the sound of footsteps near the gate. You do not rise. You let them pass. When you finally step outside, the light is soft gold, and the stones feel warm beneath your feet. The world continues without needing your witness. And still, you watch. You braid your sister's hair that night. She falls asleep before you finish. You leave the last strand loose. It curls around your finger like a question. You begin a new scroll. This one has no plan, no intention. You let your hand move. The ink flows like thought, not like language. By dawn, your hands are stained, and your heart is still. You fold the scroll and place it beneath the basket of figs. A quiet offering. The fig tree does not respond, but you feel seen anyway. And that is enough. Some endings do not come with certainty, but with the gradual absence of what once was. You notice it first in the way your mother no longer hums as she kneads the bread, in how your sister leaves her sketches unfinished, in how the light entering your window carries a cooler breath. The season doesn't declare itself. It unfolds in the silence between tasks. The mornings are slower now, your robe wrapped tighter, your steps measured with care. You sit longer by the fig tree, not for its fruit, but because it listens. Its bare branches stretch upward, like questions you do not need answers to. You hold your cup closer, let the steam warm your face, and breathe through the softness of what remains. One morning, your sister places a folded cloth beside your mat. You open it slowly. Inside is a circle of woven thread, delicate and incomplete. She says it's a path with no entrance. You nod. You do not ask what she means. That evening, she does not return home at the usual hour. You sit by the window, the oil lamp flickering, its flame dancing with uncertainty. The silence grows larger, but not heavier. She arrives just after the stars appear, her hair undone, her eyes distant. She walks to the fig tree, places both hands on its trunk, and whispers something only it can hear. You do not ask where she was. You do not need to. Later, she presses a smooth stone into your palm. It is warm from her touch. You keep it beneath your pillow. That night, you dream of a river made of ribbons, each color a feeling you cannot name. You try to swim but float instead. You wake with your fingers curled and your lips still parted as if calling out. The days begin to lean inward. The courtyard collects leaves. The clay tiles hold the memory of your footsteps. You sweep them each morning, not to erase, but to witness. Your mother places dried lavender in the corners of the room. She says it keeps the air from forgetting itself. You believe her. The market thins. The baskets grow lighter. People speak with quieter voices. You walk less, but when you do, you carry small scrolls in your sash. Not to share, but in case something asks to be remembered. One afternoon, you pass the old potter's stall. He offers you a broken vase, its sides cracked but still holding shape. You accept it. At home, you fill it with water and place it near the fig tree. It leaks slowly, marking the ground with circles that vanish by dusk. You watch this without sadness. You begin writing a scroll titled, "Things That Fade Without Leaving." The words arrive like mist, forming gently then slipping away. You do not rush them. You do not try to keep them. Your sister brings you a handful of olives wrapped in cloth. She places them on your lap and says, "Not all things need sweetness." You eat them one by one, their salt grounding you. You offer her your scroll. She reads it in silence and hands it back without a word. Her eyes are soft. That night, you both sit by the window, her head on your shoulder, your hand resting on hers. You do not speak. You do not sleep. The night is enough. In the morning, why? Our mother lights a small fire in the hearth. She places orange peels on the embers. The scent fills the room. She hums again, a tune you do not know. You listen, you remember. You respond by boiling herbs for tea and letting them steep longer than usual. The warmth coats your throat, your chest, your thoughts. Later, you visit the river. The water is low, the stones exposed like bones. You walk along its edge and find a feather lodged between two rocks. You take it home and place it in the broken vase. It stands crooked, perfect. The fig tree drops its last leaf. You do not catch it. You let it fall. Your sister sews a new cloth for your mat. She does not ask if you want one. You do. The nights grow longer. The oil burns slower. The silences stretch, but never alone. One evening, your mother tells you a story she has never shared of a boy she almost loved, of a choice she did not make, of a goodbye that did not hurt. You listen with your hands folded. You do not interrupt. When she finishes, she kisses your forehead. You do not ask why. The next morning, you write the story down, not hers, but what it became once it passed through your listening. You leave the scroll beneath her pillow. She never mentions it, but she begins to hum again. That afternoon, your sister returns from the market with a ribbon dyed deep green. She weaves it into your hair without asking. It feels like belonging. That night, you place a stone by the fig tree, a marker, a gratitude. You do not carve it. You do not name it. You simply let it remain. In your dream, the fig tree blooms in winter, its branches glowing, its fruit shaped like eyes. You stand beneath it, unafraid. You wake before dawn, your heart steady, your hands open. The day begins in stillness. You welcome it. Some chapters do not begin with a clear line, but rather in the spaces between what once was and what has yet to become. You notice it one morning when you wake to the sound of your sister grinding herbs, her movements slower, her rhythm almost like a song. The sun has not yet risen fully, but the room is already filled with the smell of lavender and cedar. You rise without words, your feet tracing the same path they have followed for seasons now. The fig tree stands bare, its branches arched like arms outstretched to something unseen. You touch the trunk with your fingertips and feel not bark, but time. It presses back, gently, like breath. The tiles are cool beneath your soles. You walk across them with care, not because they are fragile, but because you are. Your mother sits by the hearth, her shawl pulled close, eyes following the light flickering across the ceiling. She does not speak. She does not need to. There is presence in her stillness. Your sister brings you a small cup of warmed wine mixed with thyme. It tastes of winter memories and things unspoken. You hold it with both hands and drink slowly. Outside, the morning unfolds like a scroll, delicate, unhurried, full of pauses that say more than language ever could. The market is quiet when you arrive. Fewer voices, more glances. The air is heavy with the weight of change. You walk past the olive seller, who nods but does not call out. You pause by the old weaver's stall and run your fingers across the fabric. Rough linen, dyed with walnut husk. You think of hands that labored over each thread. You purchase nothing. You carry only the warmth of touch. That afternoon, your sister shows you a new design. She has stitched two lines curving into each other but never meeting. She calls it a promise with distance. You do not ask for whom it was made. That night, you both sit in the courtyard as the stars bloom. You bring out a scroll and begin to write a list of things that have changed without announcement. The way the lamp flickers longer now, the way your mother's hair grays at the edges, the way your own hands hesitate before writing. Your sister adds to the list the sound of birds in the morning, the taste of the river's water, the silence in your shared room. You pass the scroll back and forth until it is filled. You fold it and place it beneath the fig tree, not buried, just resting. The days follow without urgency. You find yourself watching more how shadows fall, how steam rises, how your sister's shoulders move when she hums. You begin to notice the rhythm of things you once ignored. You begin to wonder if that is love. One evening, you walk to the edge of the village where the hills begin. The wind is sharp, but not cruel. You sit beneath a cypress and watch the sun lower itself behind the stones. A boy you once spoke to passes nearby. He glances your way but keeps walking. You feel no longing, only awareness. The path he walks is his. Yours is this stillness. You return home with dust on your feet and calm in your chest. Your mother places a fig in your hand without explanation. It is the last of the season. You eat it slowly, letting it disappear in pieces. You keep the stem and place it near your bed. That night, your dreams are quiet. No images, just warmth. The next morning, your sister has left early. You find a ribbon tied around the doorpost, a symbol. A note in silence. You walk to the garden and tend to the herbs, your fingers moving with muscle memory and care. The rosemary has grown wild. You trim it gently, placing a few sprigs on the table for later. You begin a new scroll about plants that grow sideways, refusing the sun but still thriving. It turns into something else halfway through a memory of someone's laugh, a map of a day long gone. A phrase you once overheard at the well. You do not resist the change. You write until the ink runs dry. Later, your sister returns with a new robe, dyed the color of riverbed stone. She holds it against your shoulder and nods. You do not wear it. You place it beside your mat and let it rest. Some gifts need time. That evening, your mother asks you to tell a story. You choose one about a bird who forgets how to sing. As you speak, the fire crackles. Your sister listens with her eyes closed. You watch her breath slow. When you finish, your mother says nothing, only stands and begins preparing bread. You remain at the hearth, tracing patterns in the ash with your toe. That night, your scrolls shift in their basket. The wind rustles their corners like a hand searching. You wake, rise, and press them flat again. You do not read them. You remember them. The stars are cold and bright. You sit at the threshold and listen to the fig tree breathe. You do not wish. You do not dream. You simply are. The morning arrives with color you do not expect. The sky blushes. The walls glow. Your mother hums a tune that makes your eyes sting. Your sister touches your back and says just once, soon. You do not ask what she means. You prepare tea. The day begins again, as it always has. But something within you waits differently. Not for an event, not for a change, but for a moment you will recognize only once it has passed. And still, you wait. Not all warmth is found in fire. Sometimes, it is the weight of another's silence beside you, the shape of steam rising from a shared bowl, the stillness that forms when a story is told not aloud but through gesture, through time passed in parallel. You wake to the scent of ash and rosemary, and for a moment, you forget where you are. Then the morning returns. Your sister's breath is steady across the room. The fig tree outside is bare, the branches gently ticking the wall with each soft gust. You sit upright and gather your shawl around your shoulders. The house does not speak, but it remembers. You can feel it in the stones, the way they hold the echo of every step ever taken across them. You rise and place your hand upon the threshold as if to ask permission. The door opens with a familiar groan. The courtyard is quiet. Your mother is already tending the herbs, her hands moving like water over the soil. She does not turn when she hears you, but her shoulders ease. You walk to the edge of the garden and find the place where your sister buried her olive ring. The earth there is darker, softer. You press your fingers into it, but do not dig. You simply acknowledge. That day passes in fragments grinding seeds for dye, listening to your mother hum as she binds time with twine, watching your sister sketch spirals in the dirt only to wipe them away with her heel. You write nothing. You read nothing, but you carry a scroll with you, folded beneath your robe. Not to share. Not yet. That night, a breeze slips through the shutters and carries with it the scent of pine and something sweet you cannot name. You rise and step outside. The fig tree stands like a sentinel, and beside it, your sister sits with her legs crossed, staring upward. She does not look at you, but she knows you're there. You sit beside her. She says, "Some stars move differently." You follow her gaze and wonder which ones she means. You do not ask. You stay until the sky pales. In the days that follow, your movements slow. You measure time not in shadows, but in how the oil drains from the lamp, how long it takes for water to boil, how many breaths fit between the end of your mother's story and the silence that follows. You walk to the market and return without purchasing a thing. Instead, you collect sounds: the laughter of a child chasing a chicken, the splash of a stone in the public basin, the hushed argument of a couple who think no one hears them. You bring these sounds home like offerings. You whisper them to the fig tree. One morning, a visitor arrives. A girl from a neighboring village, her hair bound tightly, her robe dusted with travel. She brings gifts: salt, dried apricots, a shell shaped like a horn. She speaks little, but her eyes linger on everything. Your mother welcomes her with bread and warmth. Your sister watches her with the curiosity of someone seeing a mirror that reflects not what is, but what might have been. You sit quietly. That evening, the visitor sings a song you've never heard. The notes twist like smoke, rising and curling into places words cannot reach. You do not know the language, but you understand. You sleep with the sound still in your chest. The girl stays for 3 days. On the second, she walks with you to the edge of the fields. She asks what you write. You say nothing. She nods. That night, she braids your sister's hair and paints a dot on her forehead with crushed berry. A mark of direction, she says. When she leaves, she presses a folded cloth into your hand. Inside is a single feather and a dried leaf shaped like a heart. You do not thank her. You hold the gift and watch her walk away. Days return to their rhythm. You rise, you write, you watch. Your sister draws a map of the village and adds roads that do not exist. When you ask why, she says, "So we don't forget what could be." Your mother begins preparing a new robe. She does not say for whom. You suspect it's for no one in particular, or for everyone. You begin writing again. This time, your scroll holds only questions. What does it mean to wait for someone who never said they would come? How do you name a feeling that never had a beginning? Can two silences speak to one another without breaking? You do not seek answers. You let the questions stretch across the parchment like vines. One morning, your sister does not rise. She remains beneath her blanket, her back turned. You bring her tea and leave it near her hand. By midday, she stirs. She sits up and says, "It passed." You nod. She does not say what. She does not need to. That night, she places her hand on yours at the hearth. You do not pull away. The fire crackles. The fig tree sways. The stars do not move. They watch. You sleep with your scroll beneath your head, dreams pressing soft against your temples like hands cradling thought. The world breathes around you. You let it. There is a kind of quiet that comes not from the absence of sound, but from the presence of everything held in stillness. You wake to that quiet one morning, the house wrapped in a soft hush, as though it too has chosen to breathe slower. The shutters have not yet opened, but light pushes around their edges like fingertips searching. You sit up slowly. Your sister is already awake, seated by the hearth, hands wrapped around a bowl of broth. She meets your eyes and nods. Not a greeting, but an acknowledgement. You rise, Wrap your robe tightly and join her without speaking. The steam between you rises like something living. You eat together. You taste every herb. Afterward, she hands you a scroll she found tucked beneath the fig tree. It is not hers. It is not yours. The script is delicate, almost too light to read. You recognize the shape of thought, the slope of sadness turned inward. Someone once waited for someone else and wrote of it. You do not need to know who. You place the scroll in your basket and promise yourself to return it to the earth. The day is cool and windless. The sky holds the pale blue of river glass. You walk to the well and pass 3 women pulling water. They laugh. Their laughter fills the air and rests on your shoulders like linen drying in sun. You return with an empty jar. You needed only the sound. At home, your mother is threading beads into a strand of hair near her temple. She says it helps her remember her mother's voice. You bring her the olive branch you found by the gate. She ties it to the beam above the hearth. You both look at it. Neither speaks. Your sister spends the afternoon in the garden, arranging stones into circles, then into squares, then into something formless. You watch her. She doesn't notice. That evening, you find her sleeping on the floor beside the fig tree. A blanket barely covers her. Her hand rests open, palm facing skyward. You kneel, place your hand in hers, and remain there until the stars form. The next morning, the silence breaks. A bird returns. Not many, just one. Its cry sharp, insistent. It perches on the fig tree, pecks at a branch, then flies away. You look to your sister. She smiles. She says, "It remembered." You do not ask what. You do not need to. The market is louder that day. You hear music from a lyre, and the sound carries. You buy nothing, but let the melody walk home with you. At night, you hum it quietly as you rub oil into your mother's tired hands. She closes her eyes and lets her breath lengthen. Your sister writes a single word on a clay shard and places it beneath her mat. She does not tell you what it says. But later, she kisses your forehead before sleep. You do not ask why. In the early morning, the air feels different, not warmer, not colder, just shifted. You step outside and notice the fig tree has sprouted a new bud. One, small, green, it glistens. You sit beneath it and exhale. Your sister joins you. She brings 2 cups of wine warmed gently with rosemary. You clink them together without ceremony. You drink. The warmth spreads. You write that day, but not much. Only a few lines, enough to hold a moment. You fold the parchment and place it in your sash. It stays close. In the evening, you prepare a meal together. All 3 of you. You grind the spices. Your mother sings softly. Your sister stirs with a slow rhythm. You eat by firelight, letting silence be the guest that speaks. After the dishes are cleared, you sit on the threshold and look at the stars. They do not move, but they feel closer. You sleep deeply that night, your dreams shaped by softness and scent and steady presence. The next day, you gather your scrolls and tie them with a single strand of your sister's hair. She watches you and says, "You'll need them again." You nod, not because you agree, but because you hear her. The sun stays longer now. It warms the stones. You walk barefoot again. You pause at each corner, each doorway, each shadow. You memorize how the wind feels against your cheek. One evening, you return the forgotten scroll to the base of the fig tree. You do not bury it. You let the wind lift it. It flutters once, then settles. Your sister places a dried blossom beside it. Together you step back. That night, she dreams of water. You dream of feathers. In the morning, you write each dream into the same scroll. You call it shared weather. The next market day, you walk together side by side, no rush. You touch fabrics. You taste dried fruit. You listen. Someone asks your sister if she is betrothed. She smiles and says, "To change." You laugh. The other woman laughs too, though she doesn't understand. On the walk home, your sister places a shell in your palm. "It holds sound," she says. You place it to your ear. It does. That night, you speak aloud as you write. Your mother listens from her mat. She does not interrupt. You finish, roll the scroll, and place it beneath her pillow. At dawn, it is gone. In its place is a single fig, fresh. You eat it slowly. The sweetness surprises you. You do not try to name it. You let it be. Some days begin before you wake. You feel them approaching during sleep, like footsteps outside a closed door, like the weight of a shadow settling across your chest. When you finally open your eyes, the room is filled with gray light and the scent of something distant, wet stone, perhaps, or old smoke. Your sister is not in her bed. The covers are still warm. You sit up slowly, listening. The fig tree taps its rhythm against the wall, and from beyond the courtyard you hear the faint sound of a flute. It is not a melody, you know. You wrap yourself in your shawl and rise, your fingers brushing the cool edge of the doorway as you pass. The morning air is heavy, and though the sky promises nothing, the weight in the air feels like a promise in itself. Your mother is seated by the hearth, her hands wrapped around a small clay cup. She does not look up. You do not speak. Instead, you sit beside her and wait for the silence to soften. After a long while, she says, "The river flooded again last night." You nod. She does not say more. You do not need her to. Outside, the street is nearly empty. A dog sleeps in the shade of a stall, and a child runs barefoot through a puddle, scattering the morning. You walk slowly, your sandals pressing into the damp earth, leaving prints that vanish before you can turn around to see them. At the well, two women speak softly. Their words are not urgent. They are slow, deliberate, like stones placed carefully in a circle. One of them glances at you. She nods. You nod back. That is all. The walk home feels longer. The air clings to your robe. You pass the bakery and smell burnt grain. No one is there. The ovens sleep. At home, your sister has returned. She stands by the fig tree, her hands resting on its trunk. When she sees you, she smiles not widely, but enough to remind you that this day belongs to something older than either of you. She says, "I heard them singing near the river." You know who she means, though you do not ask. That evening, the fire is slower to catch. The oil is thicker. Your mother hums a song that none of you recognize, but you hum with her anyway. Your sister braids your hair for the first time in weeks. Her hands are gentle. Her silence is warmer than speech. You sleep with your window open. The wind does not arrive. Instead, the night settles heavy around you, like a thick blanket across the chest. In your dream, you are walking through water. It is shallow but endless. You are searching for something, though you do not know what. You wake before you find it. The next day, a traveler arrives at the market. He speaks a dialect you barely recognize. He carries cloth dyed with something you've never seen, blue so deep it looks black. Your sister buys none of it. She stares at the fabric for a long time, then turns away. You follow her home. That night, she tells you a story about a girl who followed a stranger through the hills and returned with her voice forever changed. You ask what that means? She shrugs. Some songs are only meant to be sung once. The next morning, the sky breaks open. Rain falls like something holy, something remembered. You place bowls outside to catch it. You do not drink it. You keep it. For later, the fig tree drinks deeply. You write that day not much, only a few lines. You describe the way the rain sounds against clay, the way your mother's fingers curl around her cup, the way your sister's shadow falls across your page. You do not read it aloud. You fold it, tie it with a ribbon, and place it beneath your mat. That evening, your mother finds an old necklace buried in a basket of lentils. She says it belonged to someone who forgot they were loved. You wear it that night. The weight is small, but it changes the way you hold your neck. Your sister notices. She says, "You look like someone remembering how to stand." You smile. She smiles. That is enough. The rain continues for 3 days. You stay indoors, brewing tea and humming. You make lists of things that once mattered and now don't. You draw maps of places you've never been. You listen for sounds in the walls. On the third night, your sister gives you a folded cloth. Inside is a dried flower and a piece of charcoal. She says, "For drawing what won't stay." You nod. You understand. The sky's clear. The world returns slowly. The market reopens. The ovens wake. People speak louder. You walk among them like someone returning from elsewhere. At home, you wash your hair in rainwater and leave it to dry in the sun. It smells like absence. That night, your sister brings out a scroll neither of you wrote. It has no words, only marked spirals, lines, dots. You stare at it together. She says, "Maybe this is how love looks when it forgets its name." You say nothing. You reach for her hand. She lets you. You sit that way until the oil in the lamp runs out. You do not move. When the morning comes, it does so without ceremony. The birds sing. The wind returns. The fig tree drops a single leaf. You do not catch it. You watch it fall. You exhale. The day begins. There is a kind of clarity that arrives only after the rain has ended, when the earth no longer weeps but exhales, when colors sharpen and sounds stretch into the air with a weightless presence. You wake to this clarity. Your window is open. A breeze moves the curtain like a whisper, brushing your cheek. Your sister is already outside, seated on the bench near the fig tree, brushing her robe with a bundle of thyme. You rise without speaking. You move slowly. There is no need for speed. The world will wait. The sky is pale and open, like unmarked parchment. The air smells like everything that was hidden: wet wood, old iron, petals still dripping from their centers. Your mother stands by the hearth, grinding herbs with measured circles. She looks up and says, "It's a good day to begin again." You nod. You do not ask what should begin. Some things declare themselves in silence. You join your sister and sit beside her. She hands you the bundle of thyme and says, "It reminds me of someone I never met." You crush a bit between your fingers and breathe in. It reminds you of the hallway at dusk, of old scrolls tied with ribbon, of the back of your mother's neck when she sleeps sitting upright. You say nothing. You both sit quietly. That morning, you walk to the edge of the village. The path is muddy, but the earth is soft beneath your feet. You pause at each bend, listening. Birds have returned. They speak in bursts. You pass a tree you don't recognize. Its bark peels like skin shedding the past. You run your hand over it, and flakes fall into your palm. You let the wind carry them away. At the river, the water runs higher. You kneel beside it and watch the current pull twigs and petals and reflections downstream. You think about what it means to be carried, about surrendering to motion, about how even stillness flows. When you return, your sister is weaving. She hums a song you've never heard. You ask her where it's from. She says, "I made it up, but I think someone else already knew it." You nod. That makes sense. Your mother prepares lentils. She adds a dried fig to the pot and stirs without tasting. She says, "Sometimes sweetness hides in heat." You believe her. You eat in silence. The warmth settles in your stomach like a promise. That evening, your sister draws circles in the dirt with the heel of her sandal. You add lines between them. She smiles. "Now it's a story," she says. You ask, "What kind?" She shrugs. "The kind that listens back." That night, you light a lamp and watch the flame dance. You think of people you've never touched but somehow miss. You write a scroll about handshow they fold, how they shake, how they reach without permission. You roll the scroll and place it under your mat. You sleep with one hand open. The next morning, a neighbor brings dried oranges and news of a birth. A girl. You accept both. Your mother places the oranges in a basket and ties a ribbon around the handle. She says, "Even sweetness needs boundaries." You nod. Later, you and your sister walk to the hill where wildflowers grow. She carries a basket. You carry a book with empty pages. You pick no flowers. You write no words. But you both sit in the tall grass, listening to the wind describe something you can't yet name. On the way home, your sister says, "If I were to love someone, I'd tell them through cooking." You ask, "What would you make?" She replies, "Whatever they disliked." but made it soft enough to try again. You laugh. She does too. It echoes down the slope. That evening, she prepares a dish with olives, which you usually avoid. But tonight, you taste it. It is softer than you expected. After dinner, your mother tells a story about a couple who never spoke but left notes in each other's shoes. You ask how they ended. She says, they ran out of shoes. Your sister says, maybe that was the point. You all laugh. The lamp flickers. The fig tree rustles. You sleep soundly. The next day, the market is vibrant. Someone plays a flute. Someone else recites poetry. You buy cinnamon without needing it. You gift it to a child who stares too long at your basket. He grins. That night, your sister paints on clay. She etches two figures standing back to back with arms interlinked. You ask who they are. She says, two people pretending not to need each other. You nod. She leaves the tile beside your mat. The next morning, it's warm to the touch. You wrap it in cloth and keep it. You do not know for what, but you will, in time. Some endings feel like beginnings dressed in softer fabric. You wake to a room filled with golden light, the kind that arrives after several days of absence, the kind that filters through the shutters with quiet authority. The fig tree outside is still. Your sister is sleeping, one arm draped over her eyes, her other hand open toward the window, as if reaching for something in the dream she refuses to leave. You rise slowly. There is no hurry. Today will not run away from you. The floor is warm beneath your feet. The sky outside is brushed with pale blue and strokes of pink. You take a deep breath and step into the courtyard. Your mother is seated on a stool, threading small beads onto a thin strand of hair. She hums softly. When she sees you, she smiles not broadly, but fully. You sit beside her. She passes you the strand and says, "Finish this one." You do. You place each bead carefully, as if remembering something with each motion. You do not speak, neither does she. A bird calls from the roof. Your sister joins you sometime later. Her robe is wrinkled, her hair undone. She holds a small bundle wrapped in cloth. For the market, she says, you all walk there together. Along the way, people greet you by name. Some touch your hand, others nod from a distance. A girl stops you and hands you a small stone shaped like an almond. She says nothing. You keep it. At the market, your mother speaks with a man who sells spices. Your sister lingers near the fruit. You wander. You stop before a potter's stall. His bowls are cracked on purpose, filled with gold resin. Beauty and repair, he says. You buy one. When you return home, the sky has changed. Clouds gather at the edges. The wind carries the smell of distance. Your mother begins preparing lentils again. Your sister slices figs. You light a small flame near the scrolls. That afternoon, you read aloud. Only once. Just a few lines. They are about wind and absence. No one comments. But your sister touches your shoulder. That night, your mother gives you a box. Inside is a ring made of twisted thread. It was mine before I had a name, she says. You ask, and now? She smiles. Now it's yours before you need it. You wear it on your thumb. It fits. The next morning, a traveling poet arrives at the square. He recites verses no one understands fully, but everyone listens. Your sister closes her eyes during the third stanza. She mouths the words. Later, you find her near the well, copying them into dirt with a stick. You do not disturb her. At home, she gives you a cup of honeyed tea. For what you won't say, she explains. You drink it slowly. It coats your throat like forgiveness. That evening, the wind changes. It hums through the fig leaves in a new tone. Softer, lower. You sit beneath it, scroll in hand, but you do not write. You just listen. Your sister joins you with 2 pieces of dried orange peel. She places one in your palm. To remember brightness, she says. You hold it until the oil warms beneath your fingers. You keep it. You sleep that night without dreams. Or if you dream, they slip away like threads into dawn. The next morning, your sister is gone before you wake. Her blanket is folded neatly. Her sandals are missing. You find a note beneath a small stone, the one shaped like an almond. The note says, "Gone to see the river." You nod, you understand. Your mother is already baking. She tells you to grind the thyme. You do. The scent fills the room. Thyme-s stretches. The fire crackles. You write a line on a piece of broken clay. The river waits without asking. You place it near the window. Your sister returns by sunset. She is damp and smiling. She places a single flower on your mat. "It floated," she says. You keep it. That night, you both prepare a meal with only things you can name. Lentils, figs, thyme, olive oil, salt. You eat it in silence. It tastes like memory, like knowing, like absence softened into presence. Afterward, you walk the length of the courtyard with bare feet. The stone is cool. The sky is clear. The fig tree rustles. A bird sings one note. Your sister says, "That's the sound of staying." You agree. You sleep deeply. The next day, your mother gives you a woven sash. For the journey, she says, even if it's only inside, you wrap it around your waist. It feels familiar. You spend the day gathering moments. The way light falls through the shutters. The way your sister folds cloth. The way your mother touches each jar before opening it. You do not write, but you remember. That evening, you find a mark on the fig tree. A small line carved into the bark. You trace it with your finger. Your sister appears beside you and says, "So we know we were here." You nod. You understand. You press your forehead to the trunk and exhale. You sleep with your hands open. In the dream, the river speaks your name. When you wake, the light is golden again. Some mornings arrive like a whisper behind your shoulder. You turn to face it, but nothing moves, nothing speaks. And yet, you know you are not alone. You feel the presence of the day before it takes shape, the way a hand can sense warmth before touching the flame. You open your eyes slowly. The room is dim, but not dark. The air is still. The fig tree casts a new shadow across the wall you don't recognize. You sit up and place your feet on the floor. Your sister is awake. She's kneeling beside the hearth, arranging stones into a pattern. When she notices you watching, she says, "I dreamt I lost my name." You nod. You say, "But you remembered your shape." She smiles. That was enough. You rise, take your robe and wrap it tightly. The wind has shifted again. You step into the courtyard, where your mother is already cutting herbs. She's humming something tuneless but steady. She looks up and says, "Take the time, it's ready." You do. You hold it like something sacred, even though you've held it 100 times before. You place it on the table beside the olives and grind slowly, listening to the way it resists, then yields. Your sister brings a bowl. "For keeping," she says. You do not ask what it will hold. That morning, you walk to the temple together. The path is lined with tall grasses and broken stones. You pass 3 old women sitting beneath a crooked tree. They watch you but do not speak. One of them holds a string of shells. She lets them fall into her lap one by one, like counting something lost. At the temple, the priestess is sweeping. Her robes are simple, her hair unbound. She pauses and says, "The gods are quiet today." You leave an offering anyway, 2 olives and a slip of cloth. Your sister leaves a single dried fig. On the walk home, you ask her why. She says, "To remember sweetness." You stop to tie your sandal. She waits without speaking. The sun is higher now, but it feels no warmer. At home, your mother is boiling water. She asks for silence, and you give it. The steam rises slowly, curling like thoughts. You write that afternoon. Only a line. You write, "Some names are carved in absence." You fold the parchment and place it in your sash. You do not show it to anyone. Your sister weaves in the garden. She hums again. You hum with her. At dusk, you light the lamp earlier than usual. The sky is dimming quickly. You feel it, the narrowing of light, the closing of something unnamed. Your sister says, "Winter comes without asking." You nod, but it brings clarity. She agrees. That night, your mother tells a story. It is not long. It is about a girl who carried her thoughts in a jar, and one day, the jar cracked. She never found all the thoughts again, but she walked lighter. You ask if it's true. Your mother shrugs. Some stories are truer than truth. You sleep deeply. In the morning, the air smells like clay. Your sister is already dressed. She holds 2 baskets. One is empty. One is full. She says, "Let's switch by nightfall." You agree. You take the empty one. You walk. You fill it slowly with a smooth stone, a broken feather, a piece of blue thread, a petal pressed flat. At sunset, she returns her snow empty. You offer your snow full. She places it by her bed. You both smile. The sky turns gold, then violet. That evening, you hear someone singing from beyond the wall. You do not know the voice. You do not need to. Your sister leans her head on your shoulder. "That's how I want to be remembered," she says, as a voice someone once heard in twilight. You say nothing, but you remember are the note of the song. You carry it into sleep. The next day, your mother gives you a spool of thread. "Tie what you wish to keep," she says. You begin with your robe, then a small scroll, then a lock of your sister's hair, left behind on the table. She watches you. She does not speak. You know she understands. That afternoon, you and your sister walk to the stream. You do not speak for a long time. When you reach the water, she kneels and places both hands into the current. "Still cold," she says. You nod, but familiar. She cups some water and pours it onto the stones, to bless what's already here. You mimic her. That night, you dream of a room with no corners, no ceiling, only sky and breath and light. You wake before dawn. The stars are still visible. You write nothing. You lie still. The next morning, the sky is pale again. Your sister braids your hair. Her hands are slower. You ask if she's tired. She says, "Just remembering more than usual." You nod. She finishes the braid and places a dried fig at its end. "To hold it closed," she says. That day, you walk the village. People look at you differently. Not as someone changed, but as someone paused. You accept their glances. You do not respond. You pass the well, the market, the temple. You return home with nothing. That evening, your mother prepares a stew. She uses the last of the lentils. She says, "It tastes like endings." You eat slowly. You chew each bite. Your sister watches the flame. She whispers, "I think we've always been here." You sleep without dreams. Or perhaps the dream is this: walking a path you've walked before, but slower, more aware, carrying a basket of things that only you can name. The wind does not rush. The stars do not fall, but you feel something has turned. There are moments that feel like the last page of a scroll even before they arrive, the kind you recognize not because of what they contain, but because of what they leave behind. This morning begins with stillness. You open your eyes and immediately sense that something is different. The light has not changed, nor the air, nor the breath beside you. Your sister sleeps soundly, her braid curled beside her cheek, her hand resting over the edge of the mat. But you feel it. You rise slowly, quietly. The floor creaks differently beneath your steps, like a voice with a tremble it cannot hide. You walk to the courtyard. The fig tree holds its leaves tightly, unmoving. Your mother is not there. The hearth is cold. On the table sits a folded cloth. You do not touch it. You simply stand near it, listening to the world settle. After a few breaths, your mother appears in the doorway. Her face is calm, but her eyes are full. She says nothing. You nod. That is enough. You spend the morning preparing a simple meal: boiled barley, dates, a wedge of cheese. Your sister joins you. She hums as she cuts the bread. You ask her if she remembers the first time she braided your hair. She says, "No, that's how I know it mattered." You smile. You eat slowly. You do not speak. The wind stirs just once. That afternoon, you walk to the edge of the village. You carry no basket, no scroll, no ribbon, only yourself. Along the path, you stop to press your hand against a stone wall warmed by the sun. It feels like memory. At the stream, the water is shallow and fast. You watch it pass, moment after moment after moment. You place your hand in it. It is colder than before. You close your eyes. When you return, your sister is sorting beans. She says, some things are easier when done with care. You sit beside her. You sort them by color, by shape, by feel. She laughs softly when your piles blur. Maybe that's the point, she says. You agree. The sun lowers. The sky turns bronze. Your mother lights the lamp without asking. You all sit together. She begins to tell a story. It is the one about the woman who waited by the sea for someone who never returned. You've heard it before. But tonight, she changes a line. She says the woman wasn't waiting, she was remembering. You ask what she means. She says, sometimes waiting is how we hold on. You sit in silence after that. The oil burns steady. You sleep that night with a ribbon in your hand? In your dream, someone calls your Namanot loudly, not urgently. Just enough. You turn, but you do not see them. Still, you know they are there. You wake before dawn. The sky is dark blue, not yet broken. You rise and step outside. The fig tree has dropped 3 leaves. You gather them. You place one beneath your mat, one in your sister's hand, and one in the folded cloth on the table. Your mother does not question this. That morning, you wash your hands in warm water and sprinkle thyme into the bowl. You watch it float, sink, rise again. You do not stir it. Your sister weaves quietly. She asks, do you ever wonder what we leave behind? You say, always. She smiles. Then nothing is ever fully lost. That day, you walk past familiar places market, well, temple. People grin at you. Their voices are gentle, as if they too know something is near. You do not speak much. Your steps are slow. You pause often, letting shadows move past you. At home, your mother prepares lentils again. This time, she adds cinnamon. She says it's for memory. You taste it and understand. After dinner, you find a box of old items. Beneath the bench, pieces of cloth, a cracked mirror, dried petals, a ring of straw. You and your sister sort through them. She holds each one with care. These were ours, she says. You nod. Still are. You wrap them in new cloth and place them back, not to forget, to honor. That night, your mother gives you a small piece of parchment. On it is a single word, stay. You ask, is it a wish or a command? She replies, whichever you need it to be. You keep it near your mat. That evening, you write your final scroll. It is not long, it is not clear, but it is true. You do not read it aloud. You place it beneath your sash. You sleep with your eyes half open, as if watching something pass you by. In the morning, the light is soft. You hear birds. You smell figs and oil. Your sister is awake, standing by the tree. She turns and says, you're here. You nod. Still. She takes your hand. Neither of you speaks. Neither of you needs to. You sit that way for a long time. The wind does not rise. The shadows do not shift. But something in the air changes just slightly, just enough. Sometimes endings do not announce themselves. They arrive like slow shadows, stretching without sound, merging with things you've known all your life. The morning is quiet. The fig tree is still. The hearth is cold but not empty. You rise before anyone else, your feet brushing the woven mat, your robe still holding the warmth of sleep. You step outside and the air meets you softly. It does not cling. It does not rush. It only surrounds. The sky is pale, with a gentle promise of change. You move through the courtyard and sit by the basin, your fingers trailing through the water. It is neither warm nor cold, just present. Your sister wakes later. She finds you there and sits beside you without a word. You both remain in silence, not out of habit, but out of understanding. The day is long, though filled with little. Your mother kneads dough slowly, her hands pressing rhythm into memory. Your sister combs her hair in the corner of the room, her eyes half-lidded, watching her own fingers. You sweep the floor, not because it needs it, but because the sound of the straw brush across the stone soothes something inside you. At midday, you eat together lives, barley and cheese. Nothing more. No one speaks. The birds outside do not sing. After the meal, your sister begins to sew a small pouch from an old cloth. You ask what it is for. She answers, "For keeping what doesn't weigh anything." You understand. You walk to the stream one last time. The water moves slowly today, as if reluctant. You crouch by its edge and place a small stone in the current. It resists, then rolls forward, disappears beneath the surface. You whisper a name not yours, not anyone's in particular, just a name that feels like goodbye. On the way back, you see a flower growing from a crack in a wall. It is small, barely colored, but alive. You do not pick it. You nod to it instead. Your mother greets you at the doorway with a damp cloth and a smile. She wipes your hands as if you are a child again. You do not protest. That evening, your sister finishes the pouch and hands it to you. Inside is a piece of thread, a dried fig stem, and a tiny stone. In case you forget, she says, you place it beside your mat. Your mother lights the lamp early. The flame flickers like a heartbeat. She tells one last story about a woman who kept her memories in jars and opened them only when it rained. You ask if she was happy. She says, she was whole. You sleep lightly that night, waking often, not from dreams but from stillness. Each time you look toward the window, the stars remain, holding their places like beads on a string. Before dawn, you rise again. You take the pouch. You take the scroll. You take a breath. The fig tree releases a single leaf, and it drifts to the ground. You do not pick it up. You let it stay. You leave a note on the table, not a farewell, just a line. I was here. You step outside. The sky begins to glow faintly. You walk toward the path that leads beyond the hills. The village is still. The temple bell does not ring. The stones beneath your feet are cool, but they do not press back. As you reach the crest of the hill, you turn to look one last time. The fig tree, the roof, the edges of the shuttered window all remain as they were. But you feel the difference in yourself. Not loss. Not departure. Just distance filled with meaning. You continue forward. The path is soft. The wind carries scents of time and ash. You place your scroll into the pouch and tie it shut. You do not need to open it again. Everything written lives inside you now. The sun touches the edge of the horizon. You keep walking, not quickly, not slowly, only steadily. Behind you, the village will wake. Your sister will find the note. She will know. Your mother will set a bowl by the hearth. She will wait without waiting. And you will not vanish. You will not be forgotten. You have left nothing unfinished. You have said everything in the pauses. You have carried every word in the quiet. The story does not end. It only passes into stillness. And you, walking forward, carry the silence with grace.